The sky blazed brightly, and the remnants of war left the city in ruins. Clusters of ice pierced through the collapsed buildings. Everything was destroyed by my daughter, who ruined the entire world. Lee Seo-jun armed himself and headed to the blood-soaked deadly zone to find his child. He stood facing his daughter, who was perched on an icy throne. Everywhere he looked, ice was spreading across the ground. He softly called Koa. "Why did you do this?" He looked up with a worried and concerned expression. In contrast, Koa's face was proud and cold. "So weak. Lee Seo-jun, now do you want to play the father and daughter game?" He was powerless and didn't know what else to say. The father wouldn't let him say more. She continued. "Or did you drag your corpse all the way here to hunt me down, Hunter, sir?" Hearing this, he fell silent, wondering, "So will you really not change your mind?" He gently closed his eyes to find the answer. Suddenly a scream came from behind. "Give up, Seo-jun. She hasn't been your daughter for a long time." "That's a monster." An old man with white beard and hair spoke. He was the Sword Saint. Glancing at him, he replied, "No, Koa is not a monster. She is my beloved daughter." The old man looked at him sympathetically. "I'm not forcing you to join this battle." He said nothing and stepped forward. All the soldiers were preparing for battle. The Sword Saint shouted loudly, "Step back." With gloomy and determined eyes, he gathered his energy and wielded his weapon. Seeing him point the weapon at him, the old man asked what he meant. Hoarsely, he answered, "Forgive me, Sword Saint, but I did not come here to hunt Koa." Hesitantly, he continued, "I came here to protect my daughter." The old man looked at him sincerely. "Then I have no choice but to die." Teeth clenched, eyes serious and protective. "You must step over my dead body first." Koa's eyes widened in surprise when she heard him say, "That I know I have failed as a father, and right now I am nothing to both Koa and the Sword Saint." While thinking, he tightly gripped his weapon, ready to fight the Sword Saint. With determined eyes, he shielded his daughter. His heart always turned toward his child. But even if he dies here, the Sword Saint unleashed an attack with his weapon toward him. He also used all his strength and energy to advance toward the old man. His heart kept reminding him to protect his beloved daughter. "I can't bear to watch her be killed." Both of them jumped to opposite sides, creating streams of energy flowing over the ground. After a while of fighting, he was heavily injured. Blood spurted from his mouth. He suddenly fell to the ground. His eyes looked toward the Sword Saint. The old man stood watching him. In his hand was a flickering fireball. He lay on the ground. His hand stretched forward, then lost all strength. His hand dropped straight to the ground. Koa's eyes burned with anger. Her hand slammed hard on the ground. Ice began to spike up from beneath. She spread energy throughout her body, radiating ice energy that caused ice to sweep everywhere nonstop. Her eyes were wild with rising anger, making her hair and clothes stand on end. She unleashed a powerful ice energy blast toward the enemy. At the same time, the system notification announced the final mission of Earth began. She flew up into the sky, looking down at the soldiers below. Once again, the system announced the final boss mission: eliminate the witch Lee Koa. Lying there looking at his daughter helplessly, he muttered, "I'm sorry, Koa." After his words, the ground began to explode. SNH fell along with debris aimlessly into the endless space. Looking toward his beloved daughter, he silently wished he could close his eyes. He suddenly regretted and wanted to start everything over. As if understanding his heart, the system displayed the special mission of Hunter Lee Seo-jun. The system once again announced a special mission to change the future. The change begins. The demon revival starts. Clear images from the past appeared vividly. Scenes of you and Yoon-hee still going to school together, until the two of you held hands and dated. Then she gave birth. Then the scene of you not recognizing the baby. The scene of her holding the child, looking at you with anger and choking tears. Then she died. You holding Koa's hand, standing in front of the grave. Then the scene of Koa being kidnapped by strangers. The scene of Koa locked in a dungeon. Then the scene of Koa's eyes full of angry resentment and hatred. All the images flashed back in sequence. And finally, the regression completes in room 1025. Inside, you are lying on a soft bed. You open your eyes wide, suddenly awake, sitting up. You raise your hand to hold your head, eyes tightly shut. "Why am I here?" Suddenly, you open your eyes in shock, remembering you died on Koa Mountain. You turn your head to look behind and find a phone on the mattress, unknown since when. Holding the phone, looking at the time, you exclaim, 2025. Your face full of extreme worry. You wonder about regression. Glancing in the mirror, you see yourself much younger. You open your eyes wide in surprise, feeling confused, unable to sit and think deeply. How could I go back to the past? And what was that notification just now? Suddenly, you notice the door wide open. Suddenly, a loud voice calls, "Seo-jun, Are you home? It's me, Yoon-hee. You think to yourself, could it be? She hurriedly grabbed a jacket. You run quickly out, saying, wait a moment, I'm coming. Your hand grabs the doorknob, gently turning it to open the door. Before you stands beautiful Yoon-hee holding a child. She smiles brightly and greets you, Seo-jun. Yoon-hee rubs the child's head and says, Koa, say hi to your dad. Hearing that, you open your eyes wide in astonishment. You focus closely on the child before you. It's a cute little girl looking at you with wide open eyes. She smiles brightly. Hi, Dad. Shocked, you are speechless. The child's faint cry for help echoes in your ear, Dad. The system announces again, change the future, prevent. Lee Seola's 5 misfortunes of 5. Seeing you stunned, Yoon-hee explains, I know this is surprising and hard to believe, but this child really is your daughter, Seo-jun. The child looks at you with innocent eyes waiting. Like a thunderclap, you still cannot calm down. You recall the previous situation. At that time, you were confused. You put one hand on your head and the other hand points at the child, denying it. Suddenly, she just said, it's surprising. After years of silence, now she shows up here to tell me I'm her dad. At this point, you laugh sarcastically. She wants to use this kid to threaten me, huh? She hurriedly explains, Seo-jun, I didn't. She adds. You stare at the child suspiciously. Do you have any proof that I'm the father? Then looking into the innocent eyes, you doubt. Don't you think this could be someone else's child? Until you can prove this is my biological child. Otherwise, don't come here bothering me. Knowing you don't recognize her. The child looks very worried. Then the image of the child looking panicked running up, followed by the image of the child with tearful eyes raising her hand as if begging. Thinking this, you raise your hand to your head, still thinking deeply, I was coldly denying the child. I really am a terrible bastard. You open your eyes wide, staring at the child. But before that, the task about Koa's 5 misfortunes, the little Koa, is looking at you innocently with wide eyes. You remember the cruel, cold image of Koa destroying the world and compare it to the current adorable, innocent child. You always wonder how such a sweet child could destroy the whole world. That means a lot of pain and misfortune are happening to the child. But I have no idea what misfortunes will befall Koa. And now thinking carefully, I realize I don't have a single good memory with her. From the very first meeting, thinking of this, you recall previous memories filled with unhappy and cold images of yourself towards Koa. Not only did I refuse to acknowledge my identity as her father, but I also caused Cho Eun-hee, who raised Koa alone with great effort, to die. After that, I raised Koa, but I felt extremely guilty. After Eun-hee passed away, I worked tirelessly day and night to pay off the mounting debt. Koa was left without anyone to care for her. The reason Koa became a witch was because of me, the child who was not allowed to call me dad. Thinking about that makes me feel deep remorse and regret. Back to reality, I'm standing face to face with Yoon-hee. She is surprised by my remorseful attitude. Yoon-hee tries to persuade, I know it's so sudden and hard to believe, but this child really is yours. Before she finishes, I answer, no, I believe you. So surprised, she blurts out, huh. I smile and call my daughter Koa, who replies, yes, Seo-jun. I go inside first. Surely the two of them are tired after the long journey here. Yes. Seo-jun reaches out to touch Seo's hat, then waves goodbye to the little girl. I jokingly say, I will escort you inside, little princess. The little girl holds out her tiny hand to me and smiles brightly, replying yes. Nearly 3 p.m. at Seo-jun's house, he taps one hand on the other on the table, resting his chin as if deep in thought. He has changed. Remembering yesterday, Seo-jun seemed like a completely different person in her eyes. Someone usually messy, but now cleaning the house. And he even played with Koa, though a bit awkward since it was his first time meeting her. She stares at the soda glass he just placed on the table as they sit facing each other. She wonders, it feels like just yesterday you were an immature kid, but you've really changed a lot. He gently replies while still busy making tea. People do change. Anyway, why did you keep this secret until now? He asks as she sips her tea. She closes her eyes and softly answers, we didn't part on good terms. She recalls when she left him knowing she was pregnant with Koa while he was on duty. At first, she planned to raise the child alone, but she came here because some things happened. Her tone remains steady as she tells the story. He asks what happened. She fidgets with her teacup, slowly recounting the misfortune that happened to her. And Seo-jun had an accident. She had nowhere to return after her house burned down. At this point, her eyes look serious at him, her voice full of emotion. I'm not demanding you take responsibility, because after all, it was my choice to have the baby. Seo-jun asks, concerned, So what do you plan to do? She requests, let me live here for a while. I can't let a child sleep at a motel. If you don't have a spare room, even the storage room is fine. Before she finishes, he quickly interrupts. All right, do whatever you want. He says this while pinching Seo-jun's cheek. She says, disbelieving, what? He smiles softly as he tidies up and stands saying, my house isn't very big, but if I clear out some useless stuff, there might be a spot. Then he suddenly asks, where are your things? She is too surprised by who he is now and quickly replies, the stuff's outside. She thanks him, thinking to herself, strangely Seo-jun isn't the type to accept things so easily. She watches him happily talking to Koa. Oh, Koa, was that story interesting? She still can't stop thinking about him. He used to be a troublemaker and immature. Honestly, I was prepared to hear some sarcastic remarks from Seo-jun. Hearing Eun-hee calling while sipping tea with her daughter, she turns and softly answers, yes. He hesitates, pointing to himself. Maybe hearing this from me is a bit sudden for you, but, well, you know our child. Should we get married? Saying that, he smiles shyly. Hearing him say this hits her like a lightning bolt. The sip of soda in her mouth chokes out before she can swallow. She looks at him in panic, thinking, what has he been through all this time? We haven't seen each other. He's staring wide-eyed at her, waiting, not rushing to answer. She raises her hand to cover her face, still lost in her own thoughts, as if predicting she'll be completely stunned. He believed from the first meeting that the child was his without hesitation. He invites both inside. Come in, should we get married? Along with a proposal. Seo-jun, or rather Eun-hee, is wondering about his change. His eyes hold so many things he wants to say to her, but if he doesn't say it now, he'll regret it. He thinks again about what happened before the regression. He must take responsibility for what he's done and is determined to fix everything from now on. The empty time after Eun-hee passed away made me realize how important she was. Suddenly, she called Seo-jun, who was lost in thought. He was startled by Eun-hee's voice. He hurriedly answered with a panicked expression, I'm here. Eun-hee slowly explained, I came to see you because I'm having trouble, not because I still have feelings. He looked at her a bit embarrassed. You're right, our breakup wasn't very smooth. So it would be strange if you still had feelings for me. She quickly replied, but he suddenly brought up marriage, which confused her. Seo-jun, I'm grateful you let us stay, but let's talk about that later, he responded regretfully. All right, he smiled and continued. Let's do that, he told himself. He guessed that's what she'd say, but it's not too late for Eun-hee to slowly trust him. That evening at Seo-jun's house, he called out, by the way, Eun-hee, she answered while he was busy helping her put on a warm jacket. Looking at both of them, he smiled and said, taking care of you will involve a lot of expenses. If you want to buy a house on your own, do you have any plans? He asked with his mouth, but in his heart, he wanted her to rely on him. Eun-hee replied, I've thought about a few things. I plan to join a guild. Hearing this, his expression darkened with worry. That's right, one of the causes of Seo-jun's unhappiness. Her gentle voice explained, I intend to become a hunter. That's why I came to ask you to take care of me, Seo-jun. He turned to look at her. In front of him was Eun-hee reaching out to touch her own face. Both laughed and talked about something. His heart was uneasy, but wasn't this an unprecedented moment? 25 years ago or 15 years ago, at the present time, a little girl was holding her relative's hand, happily walking. The little girl turned around with wide, surprised eyes. Suddenly, a water-like mark appeared in the sky, forming a huge hole that made everyone panic and fear. Every country in the world simultaneously collapsed because of an unprecedented natural disaster. From that hole, a monstrous hand with sharp iron claws reached out as if it wanted to crawl through. Suddenly, various monsters fell from the cracks of the space dimension, bringing an extinction-level disaster to humanity. The city was desolate and ruined. A giant monster appeared in front of a woman. The woman held a child tightly. Both clung to each other with wide, terrified eyes. Beams of light streaked across the woman. She could only watch helplessly. The giant monster collapsed, creating a sea of fire. However, humanity was not destroyed. Suddenly, footsteps appeared because they used a strange energy from the cracks of the space dimension to assimilate and gain their own special power. Those who could kill those tough monsters were called hunters. Back to the modern city, Eun-hee was holding a stack of files walking down the street. She suddenly noticed something ahead. In front of her was a company belonging to some guild. She quietly thought about the place, then said, This is the guild contract giving me the Night Guild files. A voice inside asked, Wait, do you plan to sign it? The door to the room cracked open. Inside was our small teddy bear sleeping soundly on the bed. In the living room, Eunhee sat on the sofa and answered, "Not yet, not yet. But the benefits and bonuses are pretty good, so I might agree." Facing her was Seo-jun, kneeling on the floor attentively looking at her contract on the table. Seeing him sigh, she asked, "Is something troubling you?" His hand rested lightly on her contract as he analyzed, "Hunter contracts have too many loopholes that countless guilds exploit." Then he picked up the contract and continued, "Those are guilds collecting benefits, so it's probably best not to sign any contract." Surprised by his advice, she asked, "What?" But she spoke vaguely, thinking to herself, "If I give up the contract, how else can I earn money to pay debts or support myself?" He said nothing more, just watched her reaction. Seeing her face unhappy and worried, he spoke up. "Hyun, just sign the contract if you want. If you don't see any problems, go ahead. But if you find anything suspicious, like I said, stop." After a few seconds, he smiled and patted his chest, saying, "Let me show you how to become a hunter." Hearing that, she thought, he has changed. She recalled the past when he was very immature. Whenever the two were about to break up, Ao's voice cut through her thoughts. "Aren't you going to sleep, Mom and Dad?" He sat down next to Ao and gently said, "Mom and Dad need to talk for a bit, then we'll come in after you fall asleep." Ao suddenly cried out. Yoon stood behind the door, watching Seo-jun reach out to stroke his daughter's head softly, saying, "Dad wishes you a sweet dream." While the parents were still awake, the little girl replied, "Okay, good girl, good night, Dad." Before her was a gentle Seo-jun with a kind, warm smile. I felt like, in the end, he finally looked like a father. At an ice cream shop with many colorful, eye-catching flavors, Ao held onto the ice cream freezer and stood on tiptoe, looking inside with eager, craving eyes. Seo-jun asked softly with a trembling voice, "What would you like to order, Ao? Which flavor do you like?" Ao immediately answered chocolate. Then he turned to the clerk and said, "Give me a cone with the flavor called My Mom is an Alien." Suddenly he realized, I know which guild contacted Eunhee, and I know all the tricks that guilds are using right now. They lure hunters with rewards and bind them to the guild, enslaving them with enormous debts. Before I reverted, these tricks left me drowning in debt, and I had to spend my whole life on the battlefield to pay it off. Eunhee faced the same situation. She was pressured by the guild her whole life and died before she had the chance to discover her abilities. So many memories flooded his mind at this moment. Ao's small hands crawled up to grab her mother's photo. She stood silently staring at it for a long time. Then came the image of grown-up Ao holding her mother's photo. Crying bitterly over Eunhee's death was probably one of my 5 greatest misfortunes. Thinking this, his face grew sad. Then he suddenly glanced at Ao and saw the little girl looking scared. He had to ask Ao, "What's wrong?" She replied, "Dad is Mom, really an alien. Is Mom an octopus? Am I an octopus too?" The little girl spoke with teary, worried eyes, and both he and the ice cream clerk couldn't help but burst out laughing. In Ao's hand was a big chocolate ice cream cone. The girl said all the ice cream names were funny. He laughed too and said, "Yeah, that's right. Chocolate ice cream named My Mom is an Alien." Ao happily said, "I really like this ice cream too." He recalled the clerk earlier saying Ao's reaction was adorable, so she scooped a huge spoonful for the little girl. Holding the ice cream in Ao's hand, he happily said thank you. At that moment, both he and the clerk were charmed by Ao's cuteness. Holding Ao in his arms as he walked, he thought to himself that Ao's adorableness was thanks to Eunhee's jealousy. The little girl suddenly held the ice cream out to him. He asked Ao, "What's wrong? Don't you like the ice cream?" Ao softly replied, "No, the ice cream is delicious, but I want Dad to eat it with me." He tilted his head, looking at Ao. He thought again about old times before he reverted. Ao's dad rarely called me Dad because I was mostly away. I never talked to her. I always left early and came home late. By then, Ao was already asleep. When did I start thinking that memories were just something to hold on to? I abandoned her when she needed me the most. Whenever Ao missed her mom, she just cried alone. The first and last time she called me Dad, "Please save me." Her little hands reached out to him as if begging for protection from her only family. The moment Ao called Dad was when strangers took her away. Her cries for help, "Don't take me," weren't happy memories at all. He was restrained on the ground, powerless, unable to fight back or do anything but call out his beloved daughter's name in helplessness. Ao's voice echoed, calling for her parents, "Mom, Dad." He snapped back to reality to see little Ao in his arms, still holding that big chocolate ice cream. He blamed himself. "I only just learned Ao likes ice cream. I really am a terrible dad." This made me realize how little time I've spent with Ao. The little girl still held the ice cream waiting for him to share it. Besides the goal of preventing misfortunes from happening to Ao, he smiled and said, "All right, thank you, Ao. I want to create many memories with her." Both were surprised by the sudden strange sound. The announcement speaker emitted a warning sound. Hearing this sound, he stood silently holding Ao for quite a while. He was shocked to discover a sudden crack. He recalls the steps of a hunter's process. Usually they calculate the location of the cracks before they appear. Civilians, shelters, and hunters arrive there before the cracks show up. But this sound means a sudden crack is forming. Normally, the chance of a sudden crack appearing is extremely low, and this never happened before I reset. Koa fearfully calls Dad. He reassures her, "It's okay, Koa." She hugs Dad tightly as I run home. The phrase butterfly effect flashes in my mind. A butterfly flaps its wings, causing a whole storm. The person who never entrusted Koa to anyone suddenly handed her over to me. Then the sudden crack appears, and these changes happen because of me in the present. Since I changed the future, something else got dragged along. He holds Koa tightly in his arms and runs very fast. But while running, he senses something very strange. He and Koa look up at the sky with scared faces. He blurts out unconsciously, "Damn it!" A crack appears in the sky, glowing with something inside. He wonders, I didn't do anything to cause such a sudden crack. A beast's foot lands on the ground, a fiery mane. It's a black bull with sharp horns and a fiery mane standing in front of him. The raging bull Chris. Everyone panics and runs while yelling, "Run, Seo-jun." No. Koa runs fast with a worried face. Before I reset, nothing like this ever happened, but now I'm just an ordinary guy. The only thing I can do now is run fast. Koa in his arms stares wide-eyed at the monster behind him. Koa screams loudly, "Dita!" He turns around and sees from a distance the monster rushing to attack him and Koa. He quickly carries Koa and jumps in another direction. He lands on the ground, one leg sliding, the other dragging on the earth. One arm holds Koa tightly, the other shielding to protect her from impact. With a worried face, he asks Koa, "Are you hurt anywhere?" She replies fearfully, "No." He points to the empty space between two houses, telling Koa carefully, "Listen to me. Hide in the gap between those two buildings and don't come out until I call you. Got it?" Koa says yes. He looks surprised at the monster aiming at him. "Is this thing targeting me?" From afar, the monster pants heavily, its fiery eyes fixed on him. Sure enough, I've been marked. The monster crouches, takes a running start, and charges madly at him. He silently cries out, "Here it comes again. Wish I had a weapon." Glancing back, he spots a straw broom. No time to think. He rushes toward the broom. Got it, but the monster is already dangerously close behind him. Koa stands in hiding, watching anxiously for her dad. He sees his broom weapon snap in half. Koa shouts loudly, "Dad!" The monster rushes to attack at extreme speed. He tries to defend with the weapon, but it's useless. It breaks into two. He leaps backward away from the monster. He lands, balancing on the ground, gripping the remaining broom handle tightly. If I don't manage to channel energy around my body in time, I'm done for. But this thing has limits. Then Seo-jun stands up to face the monster. Now I have no choice but to fight. With a spear made from the broom, he thrusts the handle straight at the monster, locking it in place. It takes 5 minutes after the alarm sounds for help to arrive. If I can hold this thing off for about that long, Ko will be safe. It sounds quick, but I could die any time in these 5 minutes. The monster uses its legs to push off and continue attacking. But no matter what, I have to do it. From afar, the monster rushes at extreme speed. He watches it carefully, waiting for the right moment to strike. He tells himself that even if he's drained of energy or torn to pieces, he still has to do it. His mind quickly flashes back to the time before the reset. Due to the lack of pure power, I couldn't become a main hunter. This made me fall behind the other hunters, and because of that, I always lived in fear. After a desperate time searching for a way to survive, I memorized the entire book about monsters, their weaknesses, and found that Grettenbund's weakness is its eyes. I have to do whatever it takes to hit that spot. As the thought flashed through, he raised the broomstick, charged with energy toward it. Seo-jun gained momentum, eyes wide. I won't let Koa suffer anymore. He quickly swung the broomstick toward the monster. It dashed at the speed of light. I can't gather enough energy with this ordinary body. I don't think that last hit connected. He was surprised, unable to believe his eyes. Did it hit? The broomstick pierced straight into the monster's eye. It screamed in pain. He still couldn't believe he could do that. How is this possible? Suddenly, Seo-jun noticed sharp ice spikes at the monster's feet, blocking its path. They wouldn't let the monster get close to him. He wondered, is that ice magic? Yeah. The wounded monster howled and went wild. He raised his hand to shield himself from the small ice shards flying everywhere caused by the monster. Ugh, Gretton Bun's gone mad. The buildings will collapse. Buildings by Almonin. Koa is in danger. He opened his eyes wide in panic, suddenly remembering Koa was hiding stuck between two buildings. From afar, he saw Koa still standing there. The two buildings on either side showed signs of collapsing. In panic, he shouted loudly, Koa! Pieces of wall started crumbling and falling on her head. Koa fearfully covered her face, crying and shouting, Mom! Then suddenly she felt someone shielding her. Slowly looking up, Koa saw Seo-jun stretching out both arms trying to hold the two walls from collapsing. Blood had already started running down his face from his head. Ignoring everything, he smiled at Koa and asked, Koa, are you hurt anywhere? Koa looked at him tearfully. Seo-jun also looked at her with tender eyes. Good. Feeling relieved, he collapsed unconscious to the ground as Koa screamed, Dad. Though exhausted and unable to sit up, his subconscious urged him to wake up. Lee Seo-jun, you need to get Koa out of here. From behind them, shadows appeared. The girl turned around, eyes full of tears. Someone said, the Cretan bun caused this stampede. A group of rescuers appeared. One of them said, we've found civilians, we need to prioritize protecting them. Then Seo-jun looked at the emblem on their uniforms. He vaguely recognized the symbol. I guess I can leave everything to them. Thinking that, he closed his eyes to rest, entrusting everything to the rescue team. At the hospital, Yoon-hee ran in shouting, Koa! Seo-jun Koa! Running out, she hugged them joyfully, calling Mom. Looking at Koa, she worriedly asked, Koa, are you okay? The girl hesitated. I'm fine, but... Seo-jun also spoke up. You've arrived. He lay on the bed with a cast on his leg, looking at the two with a smile. Koa isn't hurt anywhere, so don't worry. Koa continued his words. Dad tried to protect me. Then she looked at him with tearful eyes. Seeing that he became extremely worried and suddenly stood up despite his cast legs covering his face with both hands, sobbing loudly. He became more flustered, trying to explain, Did I overdo it? You see, I can stand up. Dad and Koa just wanted to tease you a bit. Koa said immediately, Dad made Mom cry. Then Seo-jun beamed and asked, Eun-hee, are you crying? She looked at him with tear-filled, angry eyes, teeth clenched. Yeah, I'm crying, you jerk. Under the starry night sky, Eun-hee's voice was moved. Thank you for protecting Koa. His gentle reply, you don't need to thank me. She's my daughter, too. How is Koa? The two of them sat on a bench in the hospital garden, each holding their favorite soda. She said, She's asleep. The old lady in the next bed said she would take care of her, so I think she'll be fine. He calmly replied, Koa must be really scared. He was glad she could stay calm. He took a sip of soda, pulling the can away from his mouth. Looking at her, he said, I want to ask you a few things about Koa. Remembering what happened yesterday, he wondered about the strange event when he confronted Cretan Bun. He kept thinking about it and felt like someone had used ice magic, and he thought that person was Koa. What do you think, when he said, as an image of Koa with icy energy in her hands appeared in his mind? He suddenly realized she was emotional. Her hand holding the glass of water was trembling. He asked sharply, What do you think Eun-hee, Seo-jun, and Eun-hee were sitting under the night sky? What do you think? Eun-hee gripped the glass tightly. She answered him with a question, Do you think that sounds reasonable? The girl can't even say the word magic, let alone cast spells. She's just a child. He stared at her silently for a long time. His voice broke the silence, making her uneasy. Eun-hee, he looked straight into her eyes and said, Are you sure it's not the girl? She nervously fiddled with the glass in her hands. Her voice sounded like a plea to Seo-jun. Can you keep this a secret? Seo-jun looked at her seriously and said, She is my daughter. I would never do anything to harm her. Eun-hee smiled sympathetically. I will trust you. She recalled the first time he met her and Koa. Back then he accepted her and Koa so quickly, happily, without a hint of doubt. She told herself that just as he once trusted her. She confessed that magic was probably created by Koa. Then she recounted, You remember why I came to see you, right? I told you it was because my house collapsed. Actually, it was because of Koa. It was because she couldn't control her emotions. Normally it's fine, but if rumors get out, I'm worried she'll be taken to some strange labs. Hearing this, Seo-jun took Eun-hee's nervous hands, holding the glass tightly. Don't worry. I will protect Koa no matter what. After all, she is my daughter. She hesitated. Have you ever thought that she might not be your daughter? Then Seojin looked at her seriously and replied, Koa is my daughter, and even if she wasn't, I would never say this in front of Koa Yoon-hee. Dung widened her eyes, staring at him in confusion. After saying that, he thought to himself that what he was saying now was completely opposite to who he was before the man who had denied Koa countless times. His hands clenched the chair tightly, regretting his past. She raised her hand to cover her mouth, smiling and saying, You're right. Yoon-hee leaned toward him, her big eyes sparkling beautifully. Seojun blushed, his heart stirred by Eun-hee. He thought to himself, Lee Seojun, are you crazy? Before your regression, you were over 40, while Yoon-hee is only 26 now. How can you be attracted to someone a whole generation younger? He tortured himself, trying to control his feelings, closing his eyes to avoid looking at Yoon-hee. He told himself to focus. Seojun, you're not allowed to get attached. He changed the subject. Right, what about the guild? She replied, recounting the contract issues with the guild. As he said, there were many errors in the contract. She read every line, threatened to find another guild and leave. She was very angry when she found the mistakes in the guild contract, then sighed and continued. Yeah, I said that, but no guild has contacted me, so I don't know. He reassured her, I can train the girl. Trust me, I will teach her my secret skills. Hearing that, Eun-hee smiled brightly. Secret skills, huh? He stood in front of a simple old workshop. She asked not very enthusiastically, so this is the secret. He gently replied, yes, there's a workshop here. She wondered why the workshop wasn't in a mall or the guild's headquarters. He explained, the prices are too high in the center, and you have to join the guild to use their equipment. Just follow me for now. Inside the workshop, various swords hung neatly on racks on the wall, arranged horizontally in a beautiful row. Then kites, hammers, and spears were lined up straight on shelves with a unique standing rack holding bows and arrows. Eun-hee looked around carefully. Koa counted everything and exclaimed adorably, so cute. Eun-hee thought silently, yeah, it does look like a real workshop. She was startled by a voice asking, got customers. It was an old muscular man asking who had come, then turning to ask Seojun, secretly relieved we have arrived at the right place. While I was in the hospital, I rearranged my memories before the regression, and the name of a person suddenly appeared in my mind. This person would later be recognized as the best blacksmith in the world. Hello, sir, I am Kang Cheon-yi. He bowed respectfully. Hello, sir, I am Lee Seojun, a hunter. Yoon-hee also bowed, pleased to meet you, I am Iu. Yoon-hee also a hunter. Seeing her parents greet Koa opened her eyes wide and imitated their greeting. The little girl shouted, hello, I'm Koa, your daughter. Everyone was startled by Koa's greeting. He laughed out loud, ha ha ha, you three really know how to greet people. My family name is Kang, and my name is Cheon-yi. You three can call me Kang Cheon-yi. He started speaking as he said, Eun-hee and I are both hunters. Before he finished, the man interrupted, asking if the two of them needed weapons and which type they intended to choose. He quickly responded, a spear for me. Kang Cheon-yi nodded, praising the choice. Then he asked the young lady, who looked a bit confused because she didn't know which weapon she was good at. I still can't decide. Can I look around a bit before answering? He laughed and said, ha ha ha, sure you have plenty of time, so take your time to choose. Looking at the weapons hanging on the wall and shelves, he said this workshop mainly uses midrin and materials from the dungeon. It seems very suitable for beginners. The man replied, you seem very knowledgeable about weapons. He humbly said, I just heard a little here and there. Suddenly he noticed Eun-hee hesitating, unsure which weapon to choose. Approaching her with a bow in his hand, he suggested, Eun-hee, what do you think about this? She stared intently at the weapon he held and blurted out, a bow. He smiled and analyzed Eun-hee. You have many skills focused on decision-making, and your strength isn't weak either. I think a bow would suit you very well. She asked, am I really that good? Seeing her hesitate, Kang Cheon-yi spoke up. You can try out a sample. Wanting to interrupt him, she said, no, I'm fine. I'll listen to Seojun and take this bow. He must have a reason for suggesting this. He turned to Seojun, if that's the deal, then okay. You can't return or get a refund if you change your mind, but you're always allowed to exchange for another weapon. He nodded, okay, sounds good. Then he handed over the invoice. This is the total for the two weapons. Seeing the amount on the invoice, all three were stunned. Eun-hee raised the bow and clicked her tongue. This is so expensive. He laughed reassuringly. Don't worry, I'll pay for it. I have savings. Remember, I promised to help you get stronger. She gripped the bow tightly, eyes wide in surprise at his words. Eun-hee said seriously, I will definitely pay you back. He stopped her. No need. She insisted, I will pay you back no matter what. The two discussed while Koa looked confused. Koa's mother suddenly spoke, asking, what's wrong, Koa? The little girl replied, "It's very expensive." "Then Koa will eat fewer snacks," the mother said. She nervously protested. "That's not it," Koa worried, because Koa never reveals her thoughts or feelings. She recalled the conversation with Seo-jun at the hospital garden. They said Koa was kind and reserved, but she felt Koa was acting too mature for her age and should be more demanding and easily upset. Maybe she hadn't paid enough attention to her. She wanted Koa to be able to enjoy everything she wanted from an early age. The three of them, Yoonhee Seo-jun and Kang Cheon-yi, looked at Koa with surprised and unfamiliar eyes. The man took back the invoice and said, "Looks like this old man should buy some candies for Koa." Then he wrote something on it and split the invoice in front of them. He smiled and said, "I really like you two, especially your adorable daughter. I will give you a special discount." They looked at it, mouths agape in surprise, because the price only covered the cost of materials for making the weapons. He asked again, "So will you buy them or not? My wrist feels like it's about to fall off." After paying, before leaving, the three of them thanked him profusely. "Thank you very much, sir." The factory door was closed after everyone left. All three of them left the factory in a cheerful mood, holding weapons in their hands. He thought to himself, "All right, now we have weapons. We can proceed according to plan." He called out, and she, startled, replying, "Huh?" He turned around him with a bright smile and said, "Get ready to enter the dungeon." She was taking a running start. Bow-raised eyes focused straight on the target. Her arrow shot out, hitting exactly the center of the paper targets pasted on the tree trunks. Her hand exuded energy, again drawing the bow to shoot once more. She shot extremely fast. It pierced through the tree trunks. She gaped, unable to believe she could do that. Suddenly behind her, Seo-jun's voice asked if it was the arrow that just pierced the tree. Behind Seo-jun and Koa had been standing there for some time. Koa quickly shouted, "Mom." He smiled brightly, holding up food, and said to think for a moment before eating the spicy rice cake. The rice cake sucked into the cup looked very delicious. When all three sat together enjoying the rice cakes, she wondered if this was a great place to train, since few people passed by. "How did you find a place like this?" Seo-jun replied with a proud face. "That's why this is my secret spot." As he spoke, he thought to himself of a place hidden deep within the mountain. "I used to use this place as a secret training ground before returning." Then he recalled the weeks of training sessions together, teaching Eunhee the basics and combat skills. "You use your power to gather everything like this, and we prepare everything before entering the dungeon." Holding a milk box, he thought while looking at the paper targets pasted on the trees. All the arrows hit the bullseye. Seo-jun looked at her and praised, "I'm pretty impressed with your ability to shoot arrows through trees. Are you sure this is your first time using a bow?" Though he asked her, he already knew the answer. Before returning, Eunhee had to use a sword because of the guild policy she joined. But Eunhee wasn't skilled with a sword and often broke it mid-battle. Yet as soon as she picked up the bow of a deceased teammate, she revealed her talent. Back in the present, he looked at her with concern, asking how the energy training was going. She replied uncertainly, "Not good. I tried to gather the energy as you said, but only succeeded once. I wonder if I can enter the dungeon with just these skills." Koa widened her eyes watching the two talk. Suddenly she shouted, "Mom, I can feel it. Let me show you." He looked at the girl confused, wondering what she was saying. Koa's face lit up as she said energy to convince the two. Koa held her small hands together, showing a ball of icy energy right in the center. He and she widened their eyes in surprise. "Wow," Seo-jun patted her head, praising, "Wow, Dad's impressed Koa. But why don't you let go? It's dangerous." Koa responded softly before releasing the energy ball. The girl even said goodbye. The two watched Koa run around playing. His voice worried, "I think from now on we should be more careful." She also wondered if someone could take care of Koa when we enter the dungeon. "We can't bring the girl into a dangerous place like a dungeon." Hearing that, an idea flashed in his mind. He was happily excited. "I have an idea, so don't worry about anything. Even if I try to change everything based on memories before returning, some things don't go as planned." So Seo-jun took Koa to his father's house. He was kneeling on the ground while Koa was scared, hiding behind him. She looked at Jeon with big round eyes. He thought to himself that he expected his father to agree. As soon as he saw Koa, to break the tense atmosphere, he greeted, "Hello, Dad, Huan Dad." He was sitting cross-legged on the ground with a serious face. He had refused over the phone, but didn't expect to be just as stern face-to-face with Koa. He remained silent for a while, observing. Then suddenly asked Seo-jun, "Whose daughter is this?" He gently replied that she is his daughter. Then his father asked again who her mother is. He answered that her mother is Eunhee. Father still remembers, right? Hearing his name, his father recalled the image of Eunhee, a polite and lovely girl. He cleared his throat and said, "Do you remember?" Then he asked what the two planned to do. He replied that he had proposed to her. Father so eager asked when they planned to hold the ceremony. He scratched his head and vaguely answered that he hadn't said she agreed yet. Hearing that his father got angry as if burning with fire and stood up abruptly. He shouted loudly, "What?" He and Koa were startled by his shout. He quickly reassured, "I'll explain to you later, Dad," then switched to another topic. "I came today to ask you for a favor." He brought Koa closer to his father and said, "Koa, this is your Grandpa Juan." He extended his hand in front of her and said, "I am Grandpa Juan." The little girl recalled her parents cuddling and pinching her cheeks. Then Koa stepped forward and put her face into his hand. She looked up at him with wide eyes, very adorable. She called out, "Grandpa!" He was surprised by the little girl's cuteness. Seo-jun spoke up, asking if Dad could help take care of Koa for him. His father replied while still cuddling Koa, "Taking care of a kid on weekends, huh? You want me to take care of a kid on weekends?" Father thought he wouldn't agree. He quickly said, if Dad didn't want to, he would try to find someone else. Before he could finish, his father shouted loudly to cut him off. "No, I never said I wouldn't take care." At a jewelry store, she rested her chin on her hand, looking worried. "In the end, I still should go with him." Seo-jun suddenly appeared to reassure her. "It's okay. Who knows what he'll say to you, but I see he really likes SEO." She laughed, softly relieved. The store clerk interrupted. "Here is the strap you requested." He took the strap with the attached stone and thanked her. Looking at the jewelry he was wearing, she asked, "Is that the stone co-found on?" Then Seo-jun replied without hesitation, "Yes, that's right. It's light energy." Thinking about Koa finding such a wonderful thing. He recalled at the workshop when Kang Cheon-yi asked Koa if she wanted to take anything. "Koa, I'll give you a gift. Just take whatever you like." Koa replied, "Really, thank you." Then she pointed to a pile of discarded items on the ground and said, "Then I want this sparkling thing." He wondered about the sparkling thing, but it was just a pile of trash he had gathered to throw away. When he opened the box, "Haha, you have sharp eyes. Look at the precious treasure you found." He also widened his eyes in surprise. It's light energy, a stone that glows when detecting energy nearby. They often use it to track artifacts in dungeons, so its value is quite high. After leaving the workshop, Koa gave it to him. "Dad, hold it." He wondered, "What, but it's yours?" Koa innocently said, "I'm just curious because it's sparkling and I see you really want it." Hearing her say that, he was very touched. "Thank you, Koa," as they both rode the escalator. Eun-hee interrupted Seo-jun's thoughts. "You came here because of the strap." He smiled, pointing to his chest. "Yeah, you can only get this strap here. We have to have one before entering the dungeon." "We're here. Why don't we check out some clothes for Seo-jun?" he thought to himself, although he came for another reason. Suddenly, both were attracted by lively sounds below, someone chanting, "Sung Soo-hyun is coming on the red carpet." "I love you." He was smiling brightly at everyone. Someone complimented Sung Soo-hyun's nose looking like Mount Everest. Another said, "His face is even brighter than my future." Eun-hee repeated in confusion, "His face is even brighter than my future." He replied, "Yes, that's Sung Soo-hyun." Then Seo-jun told about Sung Soo-hyun, the star of the Hunters who promoted his guild through TV programs, gaining fame from celebrities thanks to his super handsome appearance. She glanced at him, observing and thinking he didn't look well, which was understandable since he was recently injured rescuing her. She guessed he must be scared to enter the dungeon. "You see, teasing you is no problem." "I'll protect you," she replied. "We're the same age, but Seo-jun is worried. He just doesn't want to see that guy because Sung Soo-hyun is the guild leader of the Knights Guild who has pushed all our debts onto Eun-hee." Eun-hee asked if we bought everything we need and how much longer until we can reserve the dungeon. He looked at the time on his phone and replied that we still have some time. Looking at the time on his phone, he thinks it's almost time. The clock strikes 2 p.m. when suddenly the ground shakes, causing chaos everywhere. She worries, "What's going on? Is this an earthquake?" He says nothing, thinking silently, "It's here." Sung Soo-hyun glances at someone. Go-hee-yeon is holding a milk tea, observing the surroundings. Suddenly, Go-hee panics, noticing something strange below a sinkhole right in the middle of the mall. His eyes darken. He warns, "We must not let our guard down. This is just the beginning." Turning to her, she asks, confused, "What do you mean by beginning?" Before he can answer, she screams loudly. The system announces, "A dungeon has been created from the sinkhole below," as countless glowing purple eyes appear. The system continues, the special mission officially begins. Numerous giant spiders with glowing purple bodies are moving. Seo-jun grips his spear tightly, and Eun-hee holds her bow firmly. Everyone is ready to fight. The system reports. The first dungeon, Dondafongo Subdo Mall. The monsters are moving straight toward the center and launching a massive attack on the mall. Everyone flees in panic, shouting, "Monsters run, help me." The dungeon gate has closed. Some wonder why it hasn't opened yet. Their desperate screams for help fall on deaf ears. "Let us out. Is anyone out there? Save us." Eunhee looks at him and asks, "There are so many of them. Where should we go first?" She wonders as she sees him jumping down slowly. "Wait, what are you doing?" she yells. Lee Seo-jun responds, landing on the ground. Before him is a man trapped among monsters, desperately screaming, "Help me!" He covers his face, afraid to look at the attacking monsters. Seo-jun uses his spear to strike, cutting off two attacking monsters. "Yes," he orders, "run to the escape route. The hunters will be there." The man replies, "Thank you." Seo-jun looks up and says, "It'll be easier to deal with these if we gather with other hunters. Let's head there." She quickly replies, "Yes, sir." He grabs his weapon and starts sweeping through the monsters. Sung Soo-hyun focuses on the battle to keep the formation intact. Suddenly, a terrified woman runs up and clings to his arm, begging, "Please save me. Get me out of here." His frustration grows. Her pleas don't move him, but only annoy him. Sung Soo-hyun forcefully pushes her away. From afar, Seo-jun and Eunhee are running over and see this. He grits his teeth. What a bastard. Her desperate cries, "Please save me." Is anyone there? A monster attacks her, but Hyun suddenly appears, rushing forward and slicing the monster in one strike. Sung Soo-hyun's face is tense. Go-jeon looks confident and determined. Seo-jun's jaw drops in surprise, thinking, why is she here? He recalls Go-jeon, a hunter who survived until the day of the apocalypse before he reset, but as he remembers, she shouldn't be here. He shakes his head, brushing it off. Now isn't the time to get distracted. He loudly instructs the hunters to form a bow-shaped formation with the civilians in the center to maintain the defensive line. Seo-jun grips his spear, channels energy, and calmly focuses on protecting the civilians as everyone sweeps away the remaining monsters. Sung Soo-hyun slashes through one monster after another with his sword. Eunhee shoots arrows rapidly. Hyun strikes swiftly. Seo-jun stabs relentlessly with his spear. After defeating the last monster, Seo-jun looks around. The area is covered with monster corpses. He thinks they might all be dead. Approaching Eunhee, he smiles with concern. Are you okay? Your fight was great. She smiles back. Yes, sir. I'm exhausted now. Elsewhere, the guild leader asks if everything is okay. The manager greets, good day, guild leader. The manager presents a file to the guild leader. I thought we had recruited a promising hunter this time. I don't know where she got her info, but she abandoned the contract and just left. The guild leader silently holds Eunhee's file. Sung Soo-hyun extends his hand toward her. He smiles and thanks her for her dedication. You really made a big contribution in this battle. She replies a yes. Suddenly, Seo-jun steps between them. He shakes Soo-hyun's hand, smiling, hello, my name is Lee Seo-jun. He shyly replies, nice to meet you. Sung Soo-hyun watches his attitude. He thinks to himself, looking at him, he's speechless when facing me. Suddenly, there was a cry for help. Is anyone there? Please save my child. A baby was unconscious with bite marks from the venomous monster of the underworld on his arm. The boy can hold on with first aid, but it will be dangerous if not treated promptly. The exit will open once we clear out this dungeon. So if the hunters go kill the final boss from behind, Soo-hyun will come to tell me. She will fight it. He looked at him with surprise in his eyes. Usually the exit will open within the next 24 hours. You want us to go kill it with just this many people? He analyzed that they were tired, and this child wouldn't survive long, even with first aid. He mocked, judging by your demeanor. I guess you're a rookie. Standing with arms crossed, Soo-hyun slowly said, I'm not stupid enough to rush into a dungeon without proper research. So I have no reason to listen to you. I'll stay here and the guards will too, Eunhee. Hearing their argument, she frowned, clearly annoyed. Look, at least you guys should be rescuing as many civilians as possible while the guards stand around chatting. He suddenly remembered Soo-hyun was taking credit after everything was done. That's right, even before the reset, Sung Soo-hyun only cleared dungeons after the exit was formed. Eunhee gently said, seeing the child grimace in pain, I have treated the wound, so please try to endure a little longer, baby. And then I suddenly heard Hyun's voice from afar saying, I'll go with you too. Both of them were surprised. She smiled and said, we should introduce ourselves before we depart. I'm Go-hyun. Looking at her, he thought he was right about who she was. Watching Hyun chatting happily with Eunhee, he recalled the past before the reset after the dungeon opened. As I remember, Go Hyun had helped Sung Soo Hyun wipe out this dungeon. He saw Hyun Jun joining Seo Jun and Eun Hee. Soo Hyun teased, Go Hyun Jun, I thought at least you would beat these amateurs. Do you really want to die that badly? She shot back. Enough nonsense with your skills. You should quit being a hunter. After her words, Soo Hyun's face darkened with resentment. He stood up and said, then I think everyone is ready. Let's start clearing the dungeon. The shopping center collapsed. From afar, the three saw purple glowing lights everywhere. She exclaimed, Sojun, what is that light? It's beautiful. The three continued walking. He slowly explained the bioluminescent moss was a plant species growing in the dark areas of the dungeon. Hyun asked Eun-hee, I guess you're a trainee. I thought you were a veteran hunter after seeing your fighting style. She repeated, veteran, you're flattering me too much. She laughed teasingly, you can speak freely with me. Hyeon, after questioning Eun-hee, thought to herself, these two displayed incredible skills unlike typical trainees. Especially Lee Seo-jun. He's a special warrior but also has sharp judgment and impressive leadership skills. Hyeon spoke up, suggesting, we should agree on a commander before we start. Although I can track the enemy and plan strategies, I'm not confident in my leadership abilities. Eun-hee also politely declined as the three stood discussing together. I'm not very confident handling important tasks. She asked, then what about you, Seo-jun? After the question, she thought to herself, he was a special commander, a true leader. Hearing her question, he wondered if he should look her straight in the eyes. He watched her carefully, assessing this sharp girl who was testing him to evaluate his abilities. I only intended to show my skills to a certain extent, but it would be troublesome if she kept poking around. He scratched his head, pretending to be insecure. I'm not very confident either, but since you two didn't accept, I guess I have no choice. After saying that he thought by pretending to be overwhelmed with leadership, he could make it harder for her to guess his true abilities. She laughed teasingly, then we'll entrust it to you. He replied firmly, all right then, hurry up and move your feet. As they walked, he suddenly signaled to stop. I think we've reached the boss's hideout. The three of them stood before a huge pit staring at the purple mass perched right in the middle. Everyone thought it was Slim. The three had a discussion as John wondered if the real final boss of this dungeon was just a pile of slime a monster used to train newcomers. He advised not to underestimate it. It's still a boss. She still wondered. It was a bit bigger, but it was still Slim. Let's take it down together. He stopped her. I'm the leader. Follow my orders. She looked annoyed. Yes, obeying orders. Hyeon still underestimated the Slim monster. She gathered energy, spread her legs wide to attack. Since Slim reacts to vibrations, be careful going down there. Okay, then I'll lead the way. She jumped down into the monster's deep pit while Hung slowly lowered the climbing rope. She asked, are all hunters like this? He laughed and replied, we're not there yet, but it's possible with enough practice. The hook slipped off the wall, causing her to fall to the ground. He anxiously asked, Eun-hee, are you okay? She answered, yes, but the monster's vibrations are right in front of me. Yeon quickly spoke up, it's okay, sister. That Slim pile is big but slow and clumsy. As he finished, her eyes darkened. Suddenly he shouted, Eun-hee, dodge! The monster was right in front of her. Unexpectedly, it struck a powerful blow downward. He quickly grabbed Eun-hee and pulled her aside, narrowly avoiding the monster's attack. Hyun glanced at the monster and said, unbelievable. He also stared closely, looking for something inside that huge Slim mass. Its head rose high. Sharp iron spikes grew out of its back. Staring at it, he wondered, is that really Slim? It was a huge, translucent, purple Slim pile, transparent enough to see inside. It was a giant monster skeleton. Wherever it moved, the ground sank deeply. Rocks and dirt scattered everywhere on the ground. The three hid behind a large rock, observing it. Seo-jun thought, as expected, it is even more sensitive to movement than to sight. He carefully watched it. So far, everything was going according to plan. Seo-jun recalled the discussion before descending here. He analyzed and calculated as the three sat together, planning how to defeat the monster. Let's outline the plan before going down there. Slims are weakened by fire, even if only briefly. I'll help break through the membrane to expose the core. He continued speaking, drawing an ambush diagram on the rock floor with a stone in hand. Next to it were 2 gasoline bottles and a lighter prepared beforehand. Hyun and I will handle the membrane of the Slims. You will watch the rear. In an emergency, I'll need you to cover us and burn it. Back in the present, the three were still hiding, waiting for the right moment to act. He thought to himself, but if it keeps attacking continuously like this, we'll have no choice but to counterattack with full force to break through its defenses. We can't drag this out, waiting for an opening. Losing patience, John moved her hands as if ready to act immediately. We just need to get it to focus on something else, right? Tilting her head to look at the two of them, she smiled confidently and said, "It seems I'm the only one who can use energy to shake the ground, so I'll go fast and come back fast." As she spoke, she gathered energy and her legs began radiating power. Hyun pushed off the rock, launching himself high into the air. Drawing the slim monster's attention, Hyun quickly ran a good distance away. She confidently shouted, "When it comes to endurance racing, I'm sure I'll win." Seeing its prey, the slim monster dashed close to Hyun. She glanced back with a cocky, challenging look. She stomped hard on the ground, dodging the monster's attack, rushing straight at her. After her dodge, the monster slammed the ground, causing a huge explosion of dust and debris. She, however, kept running swiftly on her feet. She thought to herself, that thing is trying to break the defense layer, but just can't. Near where we were standing was still a strong landing to dodge the monster's attack. Hyun kept thinking about how to attack and defeat it. That means it can attack multiple times but can't move from its position. So it's like a rat caught in a trap. Gripping the sword tightly, channeling energy, if I can cut it open and see what's inside. On this side, Seo-jun was surprised. Hyun was in a ready stance, about to draw her sword to fight. She radiated an extremely strong aura all over her body. She was using the ultimate splitting technique, the skill Go Hyun used before I reset. The slim monster was approaching extremely close to her. It raised its huge hand high, poised to strike straight down on her. She closed her eyes, feeling its movement. Then suddenly, Hyun opened her eyes wide, staring at it. She drew her sword and unleashed a continuous strike, slicing the giant monster into many small pieces. She stomped hard on the ground to gain momentum and flew up. Hyun flew high, soaring over the giant monster's head. She pinpointed the core's location. Watching how she fought the giant monster, Seo-jun thought about Hyun. If we talk about Go Hyun before I reset, she could cut anything in half effortlessly. But the current Go Hyun was raising both hands, channeling energy into her sword. Her eyes shone sharp and bright. She aimed a straight downward strike, slicing the monster cleanly into two pieces from top to bottom. She was a hunter whose swordsmanship still had many flaws even before I reset. Her endurance was truly amazing. The sword even started breaking down while cutting the monster in half. Drawing the sword, she saw it beginning to heal. She thought to herself the recovery speed was too fast, and she didn't think this would be the last time she'd see it. The sword fell into this state, looking at the bloodied sword starting to corrode. Her eyes darkened. Hyun gripped the sword tightly, gritting her teeth. The counterattack was too late. Suddenly, a bottle of oil flew straight toward the monster from somewhere. That person was Seo-jun. He had just thrown the bottle at the monster, shattering it and covering the monster's body with oil. She suddenly had a suspicion and realized it was oil. The monster was covered in stinky oil. He turned his head to her and explained quietly, "This slim is even harder to get to its core, and its acid concentration is higher than other slims. We need to remove the outer membrane to penetrate inside." Looking at the monster covered in oil and goo, she replied, "Easier said than done. It seems we can't keep fighting anymore. Anyway, thanks to you, I can survive." He told her she could thank him later. For now, let's get out of here. Both of them ran quickly together, moving away from the monster. While running, she asked, "Doesn't that slim look more like a boss than a regular one?" Seo-jun looked at her jokingly. "I think it's angry because you pissed it off." She asked urgently, "So what should I do? Even if we throw oil on it, we have no way to get close enough to set it on fire." He still laughed teasingly. If we set it on fire like I said before." Suddenly the monster tried to charge at her. He hurriedly warned, "Go Hyun behind you." Seo-jun clenched his teeth, worried he had been careless. Go Hyun's sword's current state makes it very difficult to block all those attacks. From afar, Eunhee was lighting an arrow. Seeing both in danger, she raised her bow and shot a rocket arrow straight at the monster. While the two were still exchanging words, Seo-jun and Hyun watched the monster blazing. Eunhee was equally surprised. She couldn't believe she could shoot so accurately. She tightly gripped her bow. She recalled Seo-jun's words telling her in emergencies to shoot cover fire to help them and set it ablaze. An arrow full of energy would catch fire more easily. At that moment, she opened her eyes wide and asked, "What me?" Eunhee wasn't very confident. "I've never done cover fire before and I haven't finished training to use energy, so I'm not sure I can." Hearing her say that, he reassured her, "You can do it." Seo-jun tried to explain that he had passed both the training and the battle with the spider, so please trust yourself. Back to the present, the slim monster is burning fiercely and its core inside is gradually being exposed. Suddenly, he ran quickly toward the monster, shouting, "I see the core! We need to destroy the core before it gets covered again." The monster was burning, but its head seemed to sense what he was saying. The body of the slim monster began to revive. The slim fragments were starting to reconnect. Seeing that, Eunhee raised her hand and drew an arrow channeling energy into the bow, aiming at the target. Without hesitation, she shot the arrow straight at the monster. The arrow flew straight to the monster, replicating attacks all over the slim monster's body. Seo Jun and Hyun were also flying in to attack the monster's core, preventing it from regenerating. The monster was still burning, but it could still control the fiery slim fragments to attack the two of them. Hyun and Seo Jun channeled energy into the weapons in their hands, preparing to fight. Both used their weapons to shatter the fiery slim fragments, attacking them. On the monster's burning head, the flames began to diminish, and its eyes started glowing. He jumped high above its head, his eyes sharp, as he spotted the location of the core. He thrust the weapon full of energy straight down toward it. Outside the dungeon, many people crowded waiting. There were many reporters covering the event. Right now, I'm standing outside the dungeon that has appeared blocking the Darren shopping mall. People gathered around after hearing that their relatives and acquaintances were trapped inside. The dungeon is expected to reopen by noon tomorrow, unless it is conquered. Mr. Hwan was holding Koa, his eyes focused, waiting for his son. Koa asked, "Grandpa, where is this?" He closed his eyes without answering. He recalled the conversation with Seo Jun. "So you handed her over to me because of work, and both he and you will visit the shopping mall." He wondered which shopping mall is nearby. He stepped out to open the door, turning back to answer him. "The one that just opened, called Darius Shopping Mall, then I'll come back." Koa opened her eyes wide, staring at the dungeon door. The CEO's voice pulled Jaewon back to reality. "Grandpa, there's an announcement. The dungeon gate has just opened. We see injured civilians, and also the hunter Sung Soo-hyun." He waited anxiously, looking out for his son's figure. Koa suddenly noticed something, her eyes bright with joy. Koa shouted, "That's Dad and Mom!" He looked where she pointed, stammering, "What?" From afar, Seo Jun was walking out from the dungeon with Eunhee draped over his shoulder. Both Seo Jun and Eunhee's faces showed clear joy when they heard Koa call Mom Dad. Koa ran to them. Both knelt down, arms wide open, to welcome her, calling her name lovingly, Koa. Koa ran and hugged her parents tightly. Eunhee and Seo Jun took turns asking her rapidly, "How did you get here? Did you come here by yourself?" Seeing the reunion of the three, Hyun was very surprised. She stepped forward with a smile and asked the brother, "Who's this little one?" He answered proudly, "My daughter's name is Koa." Hyun continued asking, "Are you two married?" He hesitated. "Well, not exactly." Koa turned to her and politely greeted, "Hello, beautiful sister." Hyun was stunned by the cuteness of the little girl who just complimented her. She looked at the three and asked, "Do you have anything to offer Koa too?" Seo Jun teased, another one defeated by Koa's cuteness. Knowing he was teasing, Koa hugged him tightly and melted Dad. The little girl suddenly pointed toward the crowd. "Tell Grandpa Dad is standing over there." Looking at the three with worried, displeased faces, he followed Koa's pointing hand and forced a smile. That look on his face told me what I was about to face. Back at Mr. Hwan's house, the TV was broadcasting news about the child rescued from the dungeon. At first, the child was very scared because it was very painful. That was the child's words. The rescued child is 6 years old but no longer feels pain after being saved by the two of them. Hearing the child speak, he also felt happy. Seeing the three of them, Seo Jun, Eunhee, and Koa, kneeling on the ground, he thought hunters truly have a bright future, but they earn a lot of money for good reasons. They enjoy benefits because their lives are always hanging by a thread. Worried about what he just thought, he raised his hand to stroke his face. I was suspicious, but to think that both of them are hunters. They still aren't official hunters yet, but seeing how they cleared the dungeon, the promotion to professional hunter is probably just a matter of time. Lost in thought, suddenly he heard news on the TV. An unidentified hunter rescues civilians. Feeling both happy and sad while watching, he wondered whether he should be happy or sad. Suddenly, he asked him, "What will you do with Koa? I hope you two don't plan to leave her alone at home every time you go out." He stammered, "I don't know what to say to you about that because, honestly, I haven't thought about it yet." "Actually, I have thought about it, but right now we're not hiring a babysitter for Koa." The atmosphere became suffocatingly tense. Suddenly, Hwan said, "I think I can't not help. I will watch over her." Hearing this, he was very surprised and asked again, "Really, Dad? Are you sure?" He replied, "Definitely yes. She's well behaved and there's not much to do." "And Eunhee, I want to talk to you privately. Is that okay?" When it was just the two of them sitting face to face, she replied softly, "Yes, sir." He suggested, "I don't want to rush the marriage. Do you dislike Seo-jun? She hurriedly replied, no, it's not that. After a few seconds of silence, she continued, I think it might be possible. So many images of him and her mother flooded her subconscious. He nodded and said, yes. He showed visible happiness. That's good then. Now the only thing left is how he will woo you. She was a bit surprised by his words. Woo me, Aunt One. Holding her shoulder, he showed sympathy for all the hardships she faced as a single mother. I heard about the situation you encountered. You had to fend for yourself a lot. He recounted the phone call Lee Seo-jun made to him. He told him about her. Why is she alone just after becoming a daughter-in-law? Hopefully someone will come to take care of her. When Seo-jun heard others talk about her, I heard her parents died early, and it seems they don't know where the kid's father is. Hearing this, she recalled old memories. She sighed inwardly. God, just because of my stubbornness, Seo-jun and I broke up at the wrong time, and I chose to have the baby alone, and I thought I could raise her by myself. The harsh image of her back then appeared. She studied and worked all kinds of jobs to earn money to give birth. Many times overwhelmed with hardship and loneliness, she could only cry alone. I thought about Seo-jun all the time, but I told myself I could do it. When she had a high fever, she had to carry the baby to the hospital. She sat beside the hospital bed crying a lot, taking care of her child alone. Despite all the hardships and difficulties, she kept trying to get through them. Time flew by and I wanted to contact him, but my pride was too big. I didn't think about it anymore, but I also thought it was probably too late. I held my child's hand and went through many life struggles. One day I took my child out for a walk in ice cream. Seeing her happy with the ice cream in hand made me feel happy too. Suddenly she dropped the ice cream on the ground. Sharp ice clusters grew where the ice cream fell. Even around the spot where she fell, sharp ice clusters sprouted everywhere. The little girl cried and ran to hug her mother. Everyone looked at the mother and daughter with strange, scrutinizing eyes. I thought I could protect my child by myself. She took both of her child's hands firmly in hers. She instructed and promised her mother she would never let anyone else see her power except her. The child smiled and asked, "Is this a secret promise, Aunt?" And he smiled kindly. "Yes, that's right." Then she linked pinkies with her child as a sure secret promise between mother and daughter. Returning to reality, she spoke, and tears streamed down her face. Jeon put her hand on her shoulder as if sharing, "I know she's your daughter, but she's also Seo-jun's child and my grandchild. I hope you can rely on us and not have to try to do everything on your own. You can tell me or Seo-jun if you have any problems. I'm sure Seo-jun would want you to do the same." Outside, Seo-jun was sitting on the ground, letting the child sit in his lap while holding a phone to play games. Seeing her step out, the little girl hurried over calling, "Mom, come here." She raised her hand to wipe her tears, and he asked, "Mom, are you crying?" She smiled and replied, "No, Mom isn't crying." He looked puzzled, not knowing what his dad had said to make her cry. As soon as he saw his father step out, he shouted, "Dad!" The man sternly said, "Look at that face of yours, you silly kid. I didn't do anything at all." She also laughed and said, "That's right. Seo-jun didn't do anything." The man then asked, "So what are you two planning to do next?" He looked at her and smiled, replying, "Now we're going to prepare for the license exam." Images of the ruined city appeared again. His feet walked along the snow-covered road. The freezing cold pierced through his skin. He crossed his arms in front of his chest to warm himself. There was no one here. Suddenly he realized someone was watching the back of the person ahead. He vaguely answered himself, could it be the child? Turning to glance at him, she spoke with resentment at Seo-jun's bewildered expression. "Why did you do that? Why didn't you save me?" I couldn't answer anything. Was it because my mouth couldn't speak or my mind couldn't think of any excuse? I could only stare fixedly at Seo-jun. Then she spoke with a tone full of self-pity and misery. "Looking at my hands full of icy energy, I feel so miserable." The child yelled in extreme frustration, "I despise you, Lee Seo-jun." At the same time, she pointed her hand full of energy towards him. He panicked, looking at the sharp iron icicles flying straight at him. He closed his eyes tightly, accepting death. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Dad!" He snapped awake, eyes wide open. Still shaken by the dream, he then heard Eunhee's voice asking, "Dad, are you awake yet?" The little girl answered, "Yes, I am." The child beamed with joy, saying, "Wake up, Dad. The sun has come to say good morning." He sat up, rubbing his head, and asked Eunhee, "Did I really sleep that long?" Without answering, she ordered, "Go take a shower, then come eat and rest, so you don't need to train today." June asked, "You didn't sleep well last night. Did you have a nightmare?" Hearing that, he was very surprised and asked himself, what did I dream about last night? The phone displayed a notification, cheap service, you have saved 320,000. You need to be careful with your spending. Seeing the message, he felt worried. We're almost out of money. Still lost in his calculations. After getting the hunter license, we'll have income. But I should still be careful because from now until then, we'll still need to use money. He was unaware that Eunhee had returned. He was lying down, scrolling his phone, absorbed in his own thoughts. Meanwhile, the child was lying across his belly with a happy expression. Suddenly, he heard Eunhee ask, "What are you two doing?" Hearing her question, he pinched the child's cheek and replied, "Therapy." The child lay back on the soft mattress with his beloved child. What else did he need? Hearing that, she pulled the bedsheet, causing both father and child to be tossed onto the floor. Sitting up, both had just finished eating, and she looked at him wide-eyed in surprise. Still on the floor, he looked at his phone, scrolling with one hand, while scratching his head in confusion with the other. He didn't know what it was anymore. Transfer notifications, bank alerts, hunter deposit reports, of which 1,000 now is 1,000. The sender was Go-hee Yeon. After reading the message, he shouted 1,000,001. Then he looked at Eunhee and asked, "Eunhee, did you receive it?" She also checked her phone, her voice trembling. "Ah, yeah, what is this?" Eunhee, with many questions in her mind, suddenly her phone rang. She answered with a greeting. "Hello, is that Hyun?" Hyun replied with a question. "Hey, did you get the money I sent?" On the other end, Eunhee asked Hyun, "Where did you get this money?" She smiled, staring intently at the sword in her hand, replying, "What do you mean?" "That's the leftover money from looting. Because neither of you two are official yet and don't have a license, your gang members help with that." Eunhee looked at Seo-jun, repeating looting. He explained, "That's the process where we separate the core from the monster's corpse and collect useful materials." Hearing his voice, the person on the other end said, "Ah, Seo-jun, you're there too. Have you received the money yet?" "The pile of monsters wasn't special, so we only got this much." Hearing Hyun-jan complain about the small amount, he was surprised. 1,000,001 is actually quite a lot. Hyun smiled and added, "Licensed hunters earn even more than that." Looking down at the flyer below, she said, "That's right. You two have seen the announcement about the upcoming exam, right?" On the other end, Eunhee replied, "Yeah, this month our team will take a licensing exam. The purpose is to measure the skill level of new hunters. The licensing exam consists of a written test, a direct combat test, and a final test. The hunter license exam helps them become fully equipped hunters. When someone passes the exam and gets the license, they not only gain the right to use other necessary hunter features like looting, but they're also officially recognized as hunters." Hyun's voice sounded amazed over the phone. "That's awesome. Let me know when the exam schedule is out. I'll come cheer for you too. I'll also take care of the CEO." Hearing her talk, Seo-jun widened his eyes in surprise, stroking his chin and thinking, "The current Go-hee Yeon is very different from my memory. Does she have any other motives?" Then he reasoned to himself that maybe she wants to recruit us into her guild. That actually sounds pretty appealing. After all, they're one of the top guilds in Korea. Don't put the cart before the horse. Eunhee replied, "All right, I'll let you know closer to the exam date." He continued his vague calculations and thoughts. "So I don't have to worry about money anymore." Like they shared a telepathic connection. Seo-jun and Eunhee glanced at each other, and he suggested, "We still have quite some time before the licensing exam, right?" She answered vaguely. Then both of them looked toward Koa and called out loudly in unison, "Koa, let's go buy some clothes." Hearing that, Koa smiled happily and adorably. At the hunter license exam site, Koa raised her arm and waved, "Hello, Seo-jun, Mom, Dad." The little girl sat in Hyun's arms, waving and wishing both of them good luck on their tests. He and she were also turning around, smiling brightly and waving back. Holding Koa, Hyun praised enthusiastically. "The new outfit really suits her." "Oh, every outfit suits our Koa." She invited Koa, "Let's wait together in the observation room." The little girl obediently replied, "Yes." Walking together, Eunhee looked at Seo-jun and asked, "By the way, are you sure you're okay? He spent too much time training and didn't prepare anything for the written test, so there's no way to review in time." He grinned widely, pointing at himself, and said, "Don't worry, I'll be fine. I studied beforehand." Though he said it confidently inside, he thought he had failed this exam countless times before resetting. Thinking back to those many times taking the hunter license test, I always scored perfect on the written test. It was like I used cheat sheets, but due to physical shortcomings, I always failed at the second round of the exam. The day I got my license, I walked out looking so disheveled that it clearly showed how difficult the process was. He looked at her carefully, reading the file. Yoon-hee seemed worried, didn't she? At this rate, there's no way to do well. He teased, hey, he want to make a bet. She replied, bet on what? Seojin crossed his arms, looking at her mockingly. Let's bet on who gets the higher score on the written test. As for the prize, the loser will fulfill one wish of the winner. What do you think? Seeing him bet, she hesitated. He must be really confident then. Excited, she shouted loudly, deal! Their back and forth was really lively. She said, consider this a thank you in advance. He replied sarcastically, the more you talk, the more you'll embarrass yourself. She pretended to agree. Oh, I'm so scared. He drifted into thought again, officially starting his preparations to prevent any misfortune from happening to Koa, thinking about the painful image of Koa turning into a witch. If Koa has to go through all kinds of misfortunes in the future, he thought again about Koa's innocent, happy, smiling face. I will build a solid foundation to avoid misfortunes and to ensure Koa will always wear a smile. His eyes were serious and determined. At the Goryeo sword camp, the signboard still stood tall and proud. Suddenly, a voice called the guild leader. Yes, a subordinate came to the Holy Sword to announce the licensing exam I mentioned is about to begin. He nodded. So it's today then, let's go quickly. Hearing that the subordinate holding the radio at his ear hurriedly replied, yes, I'll prepare the vehicle. He stopped him. No need, it's not far. I'll walk there myself. A welcoming voice echoed across the training ground. Welcome to all those who passed the first round of the candidate screening. Those who passed the first test with the presence of Seo-jun and Eun-hee. We passed the written exam. Yoon-hee and I continued to the second round without any obstacles. The instructor pointed at a magical stone hovering and said, as you can see, the exam room will have artificial monsters behaving exactly like real ones. They are called homunculus 4. You will pass the test if you can hunt down the monster within the allowed time without serious injury. And the exam management team will monitor all your techniques from the observation room. So there will be many opportunities for the supervisors to evaluate your combat skills through this test. If you have no further questions, that orb suddenly evolved. It quickly transformed into a robot. The robot's arms appeared engulfed in smoke. The instructor said, the first candidate of Team D will take part in this test. A candidate stood before the giant robot holding a sword and a shield for himself. One turn ended, then another began. The announcement speaker continuously sounded after each fight. The fifth candidate failed. Next candidate, please. The sixth candidate of Team D, followed by the 12th candidate of Team D. After a series of candidates, the judges inside the monitoring room discussed among themselves. No candidate has caught the supervisor's attention yet. Inside the supervisor's hall, everyone sighed. I see all candidates fail within just a few seconds. But I can't believe some candidates would give up and not dare to fight. Another person asked, but that man over there is the Holy Sword from the Goryeo sword camp, right? I think this is the first time I've seen him. From the observation room, the person she mentioned was a middle-aged man with long hair and a silver beard. The Holy Sword showed cracks from the very first days of his appearance. He is the hunter who has saved humanity from total destruction. He is the commander of the Goryeo sword camp, famous for his legendary skills. The young hunters are growing stronger every day. He is the person everyone should be paying the most attention to. Then they keep complaining to each other. I think I'm about to quit being a supervisor. Exactly. How could a talent like him have the right to supervise such a renowned sword saint? Why don't we just choose a member from the sword camp as the new supervisor to handle this case? His presence almost ruined the atmosphere of the exam. But why did he suddenly join this test? I heard Hyun, his granddaughter, begged him to participate in this test. The girl who's been mentioned in the news recently. Suddenly, a girl from the other side raised her hand to call the sword saint sir. He turned around. I'm here. The one who called the sword saint is Hyun. The sword saint looked down and saw she was leading a child, then asked, who is this kid? Hyun replied, she's the daughter of a contestant I met today, and I'll be looking after her while they take the test. The sword saint looked down at the girl, his expression serious and emotionless. Meanwhile, Koa stared at him in confusion. After a tense silence, the girl spoke up and asked Santa Claus. Even they both fell into a moment of silence. The sword saint bent down and said, I'm the sword saint, not Santa Claus. The judges at the table turned to smile at how cute little Koa was. Then she corrected her attitude a bit. Yes, I understand. Koa is Koa dad. Then looking out through the glass at the contestants taking the test, Hyun asked, what do you think of the contestants today? He replied, terrible. The only one who passed the test was somewhat interesting. Suddenly, Koa's eyes lit up, pressing her face against the glass, when she saw something stammering, Mom. Below was Eun-hee taking the test. She quickly passed the test easily after defeating the monster with her bow and arrow. The judges announced contestant number 28 from Team D completed the test in 16 seconds. She sighed in relief, sweat still on her face from the intense match. Right after returning to the line, Eunhee gave a high five to Seo Jun. He praised Eunhee, "You were amazing." She smiled and replied, "I had to train really hard for that." She didn't forget to wish him good luck, Seo Jun. Then Seo Jun quickly stood in front of the robot, gripping his weapon tightly, radiating a strong aura as he charged up. He took a defensive stance, thinking, "Let's finish this quickly." When the robot released dangerous smoke through its vents, the judges said, "Contestant number 29 from Team D, please begin your round." As soon as the judge finished speaking, the robot quickly charged at him to attack. But Seo Jun didn't rush to act. The judges quickly whispered, "What's going on with this contestant? Why is he just standing there staring? Could he be frozen in fear?" The Sword Saint quietly observed him, thinking that this was the presence of someone capable of analyzing the situation and opportunities right in the middle of battle. After charging up, the robot quickly raised its fist and punched hard forward. The force of the punch cracked the arena floor, but Seo Jun luckily dodged by sliding downwards. He frowned, reasoning, "I've already discovered the weakest point of these golems through countless tests before I reset." Then Seo Jun quickly solidified his position. He was now behind the robot, thinking further golems copied by these puppets usually don't have gaps in their armor. After a moment of observation, he quickly found a weak spot. Found it. While the robot was turning around intending to strike Seo Jun again, the Sword Saint and Hyun stood above, thinking, according to common knowledge, the critical points of puppets are their joints. So why didn't Seo Jun's opponent attack those spots? What is he planning? When the robot swung, he jumped up and dodged again. They were surprised by your next move. Seo Jun had already climbed onto the robot by then. He stabbed the spear right into the gap of the robot's back joint. It reached out to grab him. Then Seo Jun quickly drove the spear deep inside. Then he pried it out using a kick of his leg. The spear immediately flew down below. Instead, the robot's joint became loose, separated even wider. He easily slipped his hand into the gap and took the core orb out of the robot's body. This amazed the judges immensely. Even Then Kim and Hyun couldn't believe their eyes. That thing called the humanoid core was completely ripped out of the robot by Seo Jun. After finishing, he quickly jumped out of the robot's body. It immediately short-circuited and convulsed violently due to the disconnection. Seo Jun finally landed gently on the ground. The robot behind him simultaneously collapsed. He smiled confidently. Immediately, the judges announced contestant number 29 from Team D completed the test in 14 seconds. Seo Jun then returns to the line. The other 5 contestants looked on admiringly, including a male contestant who was extremely impressed. Amazing. But the one I really want to meet is that young guy. Inside the monitoring room, Heezeon smiled and asked, "He's extraordinary, isn't he, Thun Kim?" Then he commented, "There's a way to identify weaknesses, but the strategy he devised to pull out the humanoid core was truly skilled." At that moment, he carefully observed the smile and the radiant glow on Seo Jun's face. A while later, at a restaurant with many special and delicious dishes, Hyun said, "Congratulations, Koa." Looking at the plates of food on the table made everyone drool with hunger. Hyun continued, "You all must have taken the test on empty stomachs. Probably everyone is hungry by now. So I prepared a simple meal as a congratulations for you two. Please help yourselves." Hyun's cheerful face invited them, but Eunhee still hesitated a bit and said, "Hyun, this place seems pretty expensive." She laughed and said she had already paid in advance. After they became hunters, they could cover her expenses, right? Hearing that, Eunhee was determined and said, "Of course not just this time, but for the future as well." Then Jun looked at the two of them, sister and sister-in-law, and quietly thought about himself, thinking she was trying to remind him of the favor and implying he owed her. Maybe Go Hye-yeon suspected him. Every subtle action felt perfect, as if everything was quietly unfolding. It wasn't just because he had seen through Go Hyun, thanks to regression, but also because of the niece of Thun Kim. But it seemed she had no ill intentions. Since regressing, he often overreacted. Suddenly Hyun spoke up. "Hey, you look up." She suddenly said she had some things she wanted to ask for advice about. "The weapon you two are using, could you tell me where it was forged?" Hearing that question surprised him. If I introduce Hyun, he will surely tell Thun Kim, and he will come to meet Kang Seoli. The first generation of hunters was nicknamed Thun Kim, and soon the world will know the name Kang Seoli. Then he thought some things would happen more in the future. Inside a quiet room, Seo-jun sat at his desk. He was focused, scrolling through his phone, when suddenly a mysterious person appeared behind him, holding out a chilled beer can. The sudden cold against the back of his neck made Seo-jun freeze and shout in surprise. So cold. The mysterious person was very familiar. It was Eun-hee. She asked curiously, "Don't be so surprised. Are you talking about something important?" Seo-jun blushed and replied that Hyun had asked this morning what he was sending to her via text. "I introduced Kang Cheoli to Go Hyun. Hyun was planning to change her weapon. She's curious about who made the weapon for us." Hyun was about to change weapons. She was curious about who made the weapons for us. Eun-hee smiled and watched as Seo-jun kept scrolling on his phone. "I thought I was a bit worried about the butterfly effect, but all worries now were premature." And most importantly, Go Hyun suddenly and coincidentally asked out loud, "A good girl, right?" When I first heard her ask, my mind was flooded with fear and suspicion, but Eun-hee said Go Hyun was a good person. So far, instead of malice, she showed nothing but pure goodwill. She is very different from the Go Hyun who has faced every hardship I've ever known. I judge that she is someone I can trust. Seo-jun then brought his computer screen to Eun-hee to observe and asked if he was researching tomorrow's final exam. He replied that since we were informed in advance of the exam location, he checked it beforehand. He's gathering information so that we can complete the mission without any obstacles. Eun-hee then moved her finger hesitantly. Seo-jun. She blushed and mustered all her courage to say thank you. This surprised Seo-jun greatly. She continued saying that things were so many she couldn't count each one separately. Thank you. Jun kept drinking and asked Eun-hee if this was the first time he saw her drunk. She awkwardly raised her voice saying, "I'm serious, you know." Jun laughed and replied, "I don't know what you're thanking me for, but just finish the test first, then talk. It's not too late. Let's talk properly later. With the skills we have, this test will be over in the blink of an eye." In his heart, he thought, "I don't remember the last time I didn't hesitate over my words." When facing events I've never experienced, even before the reset, one fine day at Mount Quanak inside the forest was a group of young people. This is the final test to earn the hunter license, conquering a dungeon set for beginners along with 2 randomly selected candidates. The score of this test depends on how well they cooperate and contribute to their teammates, because the level of contribution will determine whether they receive the reward or not. Getting the reward is the criterion to pass the test. The instructor starts taking attendance. Candidate Lee Seo-jun, he responds. "Present." Candidate Hyo Man-soo. The flirtatious one answers, "Present." Candidate Kang Dae-ho boldly replies, "Present." The instructor says that the 3 will take the dungeon conquest test for beginners together. The time limit is 3 hours, and you will only be allowed to use one type of weapon, as well as only use the items we provide. Yes, now I will give you 30 minutes to discuss before the test begins. At this time, Seo-jun looked at candidate Man-soo, who proudly raised his magic wand to show off. He thought to himself that Hyo Man-soo might be a mage. Mages are usually recognized because they are very rare, but I don't remember who he is. Suddenly, the other candidate stepped forward, grabbed his hand, and admiringly said, "I watched you take the test last time." Seo-jun thought, and Kang Dae-ho said he had heard a lot about him. Before the reset, a hunter who used a sword or bow only used fists. Unexpectedly, I get to meet the hunter who will become the future Fist King. The important thing is whether I'm lucky enough to accompany a project group or rather good teammates. Then Seo-jun began smiling and said, "I think we should agree on positions and tactics before the test starts." Looking at both of them, neither said a word. Seo-jun asked again, "Do you two have any opinions?" Man-soo hummed while looking at his fingernails. Dae-ho seemed to obediently agree with him. Thinking to himself, he was probably going to be the team leader. Then the 3 of them slowly stepped into the dungeon gate. The instructor announced the final test for Group D Team 12 begins. The system appeared. You are entering a dungeon that has been conquered. Starting the joint mission, conquer the Ant Nest dungeon on Mount Quanak. After discussion, the positions were assigned. At the back was Hyo Man-soo, who had ranged attack capability. I will stand in the middle to command and give orders. Kang Dae-ho will go first. People usually get scared when entering a dungeon for the first time. Suddenly, Man-soo stood in front of the gate, not entering. Stammering, "Wait, can you guys protect me?" CO. Jun looked back and said, "What are you talking about? We didn't come here to protect you." Sue loudly argued, "Do you know how valuable I am? You'll be finished if you let me get hurt first. Let me make sure it's safe." Then Seo-jun ignores him and moves forward. Meanwhile, Dae-ho hesitantly asks if it's okay to just leave him behind like that. He just replies that the 2 of us can handle the front. Then we'll go in first. And so the 2 of them turn their backs. Meanwhile, the wizard still stands nervously at the gate, hesitating for a while until Man-soo shouts, "Are you really going?" "Wait for me." Seo-jun stops and looks back at him, But what catches his eye is the beaded bracelet Mansu is wearing. Then he stops caring and keeps walking, telling Mansu to give all the jewelry to the supervisor because our position might be tracked by monsters from the noise. Hearing that, Mansu immediately questions, what do you know how expensive these are? What will you do if he steals them? The guide outside also feels uneasy. Stuff like this happens often during the test. Some people only care about themselves and ignore their team or group. Finally, he speaks up. The commander's words are absolutely right in a conquest mission. Leave those here. Persuaded by these words, Mansu clenches his fists and trembles but ignores the advice and continues following the team. He shouts, "Are you in cahoots with that supervisor or what?" "Stealing my points, answer me." Just as he reaches to grab SEO Jun's shoulder, Jun coldly looks back and delivers a kick, stopping just short of hitting his face. Mansu is already terrified, just standing there drenched in sweat like a waterfall. Mansu seems to lose his balance and collapses. His magic staff falls to the ground. Seo Jun points his spear toward the wizard who approaches. The guide watching this tense scene is very worried and finally issues a warning. "Hyo Mansu, I'll only say this once, give all that jewelry back." Seeing the deadly look in his eyes, Mansu stammers in fear. Yes, yes." The guide observes his situation and thinks to himself how quick and natural the movements are, leaving no time to react. He even calculated the exact threatening distance. I've heard that a candidate once scored a perfect score on the written test and completed the practical test in the shortest time a potential hunter has appeared. Meanwhile, SEO Jun turns back to his teammates. "Let's keep going." Daeho simply replies, "Yes." After moving for a while, he looks around and thinks it's strange we've been moving for some time without seeing a single ant guard. Then SEO Jun notices the purple glows on the walls, and even the luminescent moss the stone ants usually feed on have been left behind. There have been cases where secret supervisors create surprise situations to see how candidates respond. But even so, Daeho's cautious voice suddenly cuts off his thoughts. Wait, there's something strange over there. In front of them is a deep pit in the ground. A pit they slowly approach to investigate. I've never seen this before during conquest missions with the ant colony. This kind of surprise should be easier to handle. Suddenly, something underground shifts strangely. Is this an earthquake? Mansu startles and slips. Then SEO Jun turns to look at Mansu, who has already been pulled down into the pit. The only thing holding him is his grip on SEO Jun's weapon. His face turns pale with extreme fear. Daeho quickly rushes over. SEO Jun tells Hyo Mansu not to move, but Mansu's foot keeps sinking. Something is pulling me down, he panics. SEO Jun wonders. Pulling you down? What do you mean? Suddenly, from behind SEO Jun, a monstrous ant bursts out of the sand, opening its mouth full of teeth wide. Mansu screams in panic. Save me both. Daeho and SEO Jun widen their eyes in fear. Could it be a carnivorous ant? Finally, Mansu's hand accidentally slips off the weapon handle, losing his grip, and he immediately falls down. He is buried under the sand, along with the ant easily. All that can be heard from above are his groans. Right after, SEO Jun also descends down. Both slide down as he tells them, "We'll go down to help." Daeho responded loudly. The instructor knelt above, looking down, and shouted to stop. Wait, this is not the testing area. Hearing this, Seo Jun was worried, but he still didn't stop sliding down. A surge of electricity emitted. The system began activating the dungeon. You are the first to enter the hidden dungeon. Special mission initiated, conquer the carnivorous ant nest. Daeho grabbed Seo Jun's wrist and pulled him out of the sand pit. Are you okay? Seo Jun replied. Thanks. Wiping his face, he asked, did you hear the announcement just now? Daeho replied, I heard something about a special mission. Both stood up and looked ahead. Daeho said a hidden dungeon. We've entered a hidden dungeon up ahead. It was a large cave with glowing moss all around. It grew on every wall of the cave, shining brightly and dazzling the eyes. At the cave entrance ahead, they observed. I heard there would be unexpected situations in the test, but I didn't expect it to really happen. Seo Jun agreed. Yeah, the supervisor's expression earlier seemed like he didn't know anything either. He thought to himself, before I reset the ant nest dungeon, never had a hidden dungeon appear. What if this is the consequence of the butterfly effect? Suddenly ahead, they heard Mansu's screams. Both were startled and looked at each other. Daeho immediately recognized the voice. Hey, Mansu, what should we do? Seo Jun said, he'll be fine for now. Ants tend to store prey alive. Hearing that, he loudly said, if we wait for the supervisor to arrive, then... Seo Jun calmly analyzed the entrance to the hidden dungeon is locked after we enter. I don't think the supervisor can catch up to us. Hearing that, Daeho could only stay silent, though he was sweating bullets. He thought deeply. He's probably worried because this is a dungeon no one has ever entered, and 2 test participants have to conquer it together. But there is one reason why I'm trying so hard. Even if it's a gamble, my goal is to get the reward for the first person to conquer this hidden dungeon. The elixir. After a dungeon is conquered, it rewards hunters in many ways. Among them is the chance to get the elixir if you're the first to conquer the dungeon. It enhances the hunter's abilities, so any hunter wants to have it. Even if I rush in like a moth to the flame, if one is the sovereign and the other is the resetter, then the game board must change. His words startled Diho a bit. Even though this place is dangerous, we still have to try to save him. If we can help and protect those in danger, I think that's what a hunter should do. Suddenly, the atmosphere became romantic. Cool, sparkling with glitter, and it seemed the cave lay behind him. Quickly moved by Sojun's courage and determined words, feeling really admiring of his strong will, Daeho then loudly agreed, "You're right. I'm ashamed for hesitating." After that, he spoke casually. I stopped, because I'm younger than you. Thinking to himself, he's exactly like before I reset. Then the 2 faced the cave, waiting for them ahead. Daeho said, "I'll hand you the commander role as we agreed. You can call me whatever you want." Seojun replied, "I will." Daeho and he then began the conquest of the carnivorous ant nest dungeon. After a while, a pale white stone ant crawled over. Daeho immediately threw a punch, smashing it to pieces with his powerful strike. Then Sojun stood beside him, also alert and ready to fight. Daeho loudly asked, "How can an ant corpse move?" He answered, "Ant corpses eaten by carnivorous ants become zombie ant monsters." Daeho said, "Damn it. I was wondering where all the ants should be by now." Daeho then continued kicking one. Meanwhile thinking, but contrary to my worries, the battle is going pretty well. I've never fought this easily before. Could it be I gained superhuman strength just because I was worried this is my first time entering a hidden dungeon? Suddenly, Seojun loudly warned, "There are 2 behind us." Daeho quickly looked behind. Indeed, they were ambushing and ready to pounce on him. Daeho immediately turned and punched the first ant, then swiftly attacked the second. He then looked back at Sojun, wondering if it was thanks to Sojun. Daeho observed Seojun facing the swarm of ants and thought, whenever we're suddenly attacked, Seojun's spear and commands appear to help both of us escape trouble. He's like someone who has been through countless battles. Then Sojun spoke again. 3 ants on the left. Right after Daeho quickly looked behind. Sure enough, there were 3 ants on his side. But with support from his teammate, he became excited to fight. At this time, he still remained vigilant about the movements around him. Daeho thought quietly, "He's truly reliable." After a while fighting, Seojun and Daeho continued moving forward. He said these killer ants probably use the glowing moss to lure the soldier ants to feast. Hearing this strange information about them, he was surprised. "What, I just thought the moss was increasing in number, if you say so." Then Seojun looked around the glowing moss-covered area and said, "That's right. If I'm not mistaken, we'll reach the boss's room soon. I'm sure Heyomansu is there." Daeho continued walking and replied, "Even though Heyomansu is a bit irritating, I hope he's okay." When they stepped out of the glowing moss area, they saw holes dug by soldier ants on the cave wall above. Along with that was Mansu's body lying still right before their eyes. Daeho shouted loudly, "There he is, that reckless guy!" Suddenly, Seojun felt the cave floor shaking. Sand quickly stirred up. Seojun shouted a warning, "Daeho, get out of the way." But below, an ant grabbed his leg with its claw. It was too late. Then it violently surfaced, pulling Daeho upside down. Seojun raised his spear anxiously and called out, "Daeho." He responded in panic, "I'm fine. I already have energy around me, but I don't think I can hold on." At this moment, Daeho's energy-covered leg was tightly clamped by the ant. Seojun quickly rushed forward and struck the ant's back with his spear, but its shell was too hard compared to the tip of his spear. Seojun thought to himself, "This is tough. This time it's different from the armored golem doll. Its body is very hard." He reasoned, "Let me think about the killer ant's weak point. I've fought monsters countless times and made a great effort to remember their weaknesses." Right after observing the ant's body features, he immediately focused on the small antenna on its head. Seojun then launched himself up again. He turned his spear toward himself and slashed across the ant with a powerful cut. Instantly, he cut off its small antenna, disabling the ant and loosening its grip. Daeho was immediately released. He fell back onto the ground. Seojun then wondered what he had cut and recalled the things his spear's blade had brushed past. Its antenna and eyes, Seojun slowly approached behind Daeho. He asked, "Are you okay?" Daeho looked back, still a bit startled, and replied, "I'm fine. I can keep fighting." Both of them looked back at the giant soldier ant. It was not completely defeated yet. Seojun said, Daeho, listen carefully. We need to pull it out of the ground before it escapes again. Daeho didn't know what to do and asked again, how do we pull it out? Why not just drag it out? Seojun replied, damaging its antenna and eyes won't do much. We have to attack its real weak spot. Seojun turned to ask him, can you do it? But before Daeho could answer, he immediately said, no, you have to do it. I'm sure you can. At that moment, a part of his unpleasant past returned. Daeho had received disappointment and harsh words about himself. A hunter who uses fists. Why are you so reckless? I don't think you fit in my team. Please leave. I can't lead a fighting style I've never seen before properly. I want you to leave the team. If you don't bring a weapon, at least be clever. You only rely on strength. How can you be so ignorant? But compared to now, Seojun was the first teammate to accept and acknowledge him. The first time they teamed up, Seojun smiled and extended his hand. Your fighting style is pretty impressive. You're the best hunter I've ever met. Immediately, Daeho's willpower surged. He slowly stood up. His hand instantly tensed and emitted an aura. He responded firmly, all right, I got it. I trust your word. Right after Seojun said that, Daeho lunged at the ant and tightly embraced its body, not letting it burrow into the ground. It immediately screamed and struggled wildly. Its pushing force made Daeho struggle to keep his feet firmly on the ground. He still didn't let go of the ant. The aura grew stronger. You won't escape, he said, then suddenly veins glowing appeared on Daeho's arm. His legs bent and he stomped hard on the ground. Then he lifted the ant off the ground, its head hanging downward following the bend of Daeho's body. The ant's tail had many legs but was surprisingly flexible. He gasped, unable to believe what was happening before his eyes. The lower body hidden underground had no shell at all. Daeho loudly told Seojun, I don't think I can hold on much longer. Seojun's spear also gathered enough aura at that moment. He praised, you did great. He immediately slid forward with the spear in hand. He looked at Daeho and smiled. That's enough, thinking to himself. I'm with someone who will be a future king of rights. I can't take it down in a usual way. Then he leapt up, raising his spear high. Amid the panicked roar of the ant, with just one flick, the spear sliced through its tail, severing the fragile tail and quickly killing the ant. System notification and hidden dungeon. You are the first to kill a flesh-eating ant. Special mission completed. Seojun stood up while Daeho looked back, still holding the ant's body. Lee Seojun smiled brightly at him. Thank you for your effort. The system also announced that the reward for the first person to conquer the dungeon will be sent to you the next day. At the hunter license office, the clerk started checking if the two were Lee Seojun and Yoon-hee. Then he handed over 2 cards saying, these licenses prove you are official hunters. Congratulations to both of you for passing the final exam. After many hardships, I finally passed and became an official hunter. At that time, Seojun and Yoon-hee went home together. She was holding Kue. Seojun looked at the girl curiously. Why is Kue pouting like that? Yoon-hee replied, her cake was just confiscated. Although this is a step forward to change the future, I must not forget. This is only the beginning. But suddenly, something made him hesitate. Then Seojun looked down at his wrist. The glowing light energy stone was flickering. Why did his face darken? The mark didn't disappear because a crack appeared. Seojun widened his eyes, pondering in worry. Suddenly, Eunhee's bag floated in the air due to some kind of magic. She panicked and said, what's wrong with this? The bag. Seojun looked surprised at the things slowly being taken out of the bag. That magic, a lollipop. Who cast magic like this? That lollipop seemed to be the object the caster desired. He immediately looked back at his daughter. Could it be that her body was glowing, just like when the house collapsed, or when the Cretan bun was destroyed? Kue's magic seemed too powerful to control. While Eunhee was still very surprised by the strange event, the girl blinked toward the magic-using lollipop and pulled it closer. That night, when the whole family finally returned home while Kue was sleeping on the sofa, Seojun and Eunhee sat down and talked. She began, I don't think that was Kue's magic. At this moment, Kue finally got the lollipop she wished for. The girl tightly held it as she slept contentedly. Seojun asked, what really happened on the day the house collapsed? Eunhee, replied the girl, asked, where is her dad? The girl burst into tears when she was told she couldn't see him and the house collapsed. Hearing that, Seojun was extremely surprised. He thought to himself, that's why they came looking for me. During that time, everything was limited to making objects levitate. But based on what I saw, the girl's ability has to be on par with a mage. No, she must be far beyond an ordinary mage. Later on, the girl could use that magic much more powerfully. The problem is Kue uses it unconsciously. It seems like the girl's abilities depend on her emotions. Then he said, this is just what I think, but it seems her powers are influenced bit by her emotions. Hearing this, Inhi was quite worried. What do you mean? Both of them looked at the child peacefully sleeping. Then Seojun explained, Kuei's mana is getting stronger to a level that could become uncontrollable. She stammered anxiously, so what will happen to Kuei now? If this keeps up, I'm sure someone will get hurt and Kuei will be in danger. He replied, it's not like there's no way to help her. Hearing that, Eunhee was a bit startled. Then Seojun clenched his fist. I knew this day would come. He remembered before his regression when Kuei's power had already erupted even before he regressed. At that time, Seojun found the girl inside a dark room. His expression quickly turned to fear. Kuei was kneeling there with extremely strong magical energy rising. Layers of ice and sharp ice formed due to the power of the magic she was holding. Kuei slowly turned around. Her eyes were more resolute with a continuous aura emanating. I didn't think it would happen this soon. One of the reasons explaining why Kuei's mana is so sensitive is because the surrounding mana is quite thin. So we just need to bring her somewhere with abundant mana. Eunhee thought a place with abundant mana. Suddenly remembering something, she immediately became startled. Silence is impossible. She stammered while Seojun confirmed, that's right. The two places with sufficient mana are dungeons or battlefields. Thinking about him taking Kuei to those dangerous places made her unwilling. Are you crazy? That's way too dangerous. What if Kuei gets hurt? It seemed her loud voice made Kuei stir a little in discomfort. Eunhee quickly fell silent, lowering her voice and looking at Seojun. He awkwardly said he didn't want to take her to such dangerous places either, even though she will control her powers to become the final boss in the future. She's only 5 now. To prevent the future she will face, do I have to make her confront danger directly now? Jun looked away, thinking silently. Taking Kuei to dangerous places could change something in the present and past, right? Then he raised Eunhee's hand and apologized to her. She replied that she believed he had considered this before deciding. He added that he wasn't saying she would have to fight monsters. We will defeat them all. We just need to bring her there. Dungeons and battlefields are owned by guilds, so he's not sure if they will allow her in. She said they would never allow it unless they were out of their minds. If I knew who owns those places, I'd listen to Eunhee's advice. He immediately realized and told Seojun to try calling for help. The next morning at the bus stop with the Goryo Sword Mountain sign, the entrance to Goryo Sword Cave, Seojun, Eunhee, and Kuei stood in front of the sign. She looked toward the stairs ahead and asked, isn't this the entrance to the Goryo Sword Cave? Suddenly, the silhouette of a woman appeared. She greeted them, welcoming the whole group. Eunhee was surprised and turned around while Kuei happily looked at her. The woman in front of them was Hyun Kuei. She immediately called her pretty sister. She waved her hand in a friendly manner. Kuei is even cuter than before. The girl rushed into Hyun for a hug. Meanwhile, Eunhee wondered why Hyun was here. Seojun stepped forward, scratching his head. Hyun, I came here because I need your help with something. She immediately said, go inside first, then we can talk. It's not far, just a few steps up. But they all looked up at those steps together. Why was Jun stunned? Because it wasn't just a few steps, it was dozens of small steps waiting for them to climb. As they climbed, his voice grew quieter, and Hyun was sweating bullets. Seojun's face went pale. Both of them were speechless. He thought to himself it had been a long time. After entering Sia's house, he hugged the stuffed bear, completely satisfied, while Seojun and Eunhee were exhausted. The steps in front of the house stretched about 3 kilometers and were even on the mountainside. Both of them slumped down over the table while the child was bright and cheerful. Seojun said Sia slept soundly on Hyun's back the entire way. Then they started examining the house. This place was truly contradictory. The rooms looked modern, but the exterior followed traditional Hanok architecture. Eunhee said, by the way, Seojun, I'm curious who is Hyun that you told us to come see her. I didn't expect she'd be the granddaughter of the famous sword saint Hyun. Just then a tray of glasses and a teapot were brought out, and those who recently became hunters barely knew about it. I didn't become a hunter for fame, and I don't seek that either. She smiled as she set the tray down. You came here for my help, right? What is it? After a moment, she poured tea for each of them and talked with them. Hyun was watching Koa sleep and asked if their battlefield was the Sword Mountain Goryo. Yeah, Jun replied. That's because I know this is where the members and apprentices of your family guild train. Meanwhile, Hyun was holding a phone, taking pictures of the child. Surely she was taking pictures of Koa with permission. The cracks are divided into 3 main types. Temporary cracks. They summon a horde of monsters and then disappear. Corrosive cracks. They invade buildings and create dungeons. Eternal cracks. Opposite to temporary cracks. They don't disappear and summon monsters regularly. The battlefield is the area where monsters emerge from eternal cracks. Seo Jun asked if they could be the only ones to use the battlefield. At that time, Hyun was checking online. It'd be a bit inconvenient for you if you share it with the rookies, right? Of course you can. I'll check which shifts the rookies aren't training. Hearing that, Seo Jun was genuinely surprised. He wondered why it was so easy. Hyunjun smiled and said he had introduced her to Sir Kangchi Oli. You should repay kindness. Eunhee sighed in relief hearing that. Seo Jun thought to himself he was worried they wouldn't be allowed, but it turned out fine. She added, first let me ask if you're allowed into the battlefield. After a while, Eunhee grew a bit worried because Hyun took quite long. Seo Jun said Sword Goryo was quite large anyway, and he thought it would take quite some time to get around. Suddenly, a woman opened the door and asked, is Lady Go Hyun here? Seo Jun turned surprised. A rookie. A man was walking behind her. Seo Jun replied. She stepped out for a moment. What's the matter? The girl stammered. She has a guest. What's wrong? Has she been gone a long time? Looking at the man behind the girl, Seo Jun immediately choked on his drink. Sung Soo Hyun Hae wondered why he was here. It seemed he recognized him too. He spoke up. I'm wondering who this is. You're Yu Eun-hee, the one I met earlier. At this moment, Seo Jun felt truly awkward. It felt strange that blunt-nosed guy remembered his name. Then Soo Hyun turned to talk to the girl. Order won't help if she's busy. The girl replied, I think you should come next time. Seo Jun thought to himself. After being scolded so harshly by Go Hee-jan, he still came here. Judging by their conversation, it seemed those two were meeting for the first time. Soo Hyun then looked at him with a dark face and said, before I take my leave. Suddenly, he raised his hand and pointed straight at Seo Jun. I have no idea what's going on either, he growled, dangerously full of killing intent. The candidate stepped forward to speak. Seo Jun was equally annoyed by his attitude. After a while, Seo Jun finally met Soo Hyun under a tree. His face was gloomy, staring intently at Soo Hyun while passersby noticed. Isn't he that famous hunter? He looks really handsome. When receiving praise from fans, he pretended to run his hands through his hair and styled it like a pop idol, very handsome and adored by fans. But that wasn't Seo Jun. He thought to himself that since he wasn't the owner of this place, he couldn't tell him to leave. Soo Hyun finally spoke up. The reward for first clearing a dungeon, I'm here to claim my share. Hearing this, Seo Jun was very puzzled, wondering about his contribution. That made no sense. Soo Hyun explained that the hunter who discovered the dungeon had the authority to inspect it first. Even though he arrived after the dungeon opened, Yu Eun-hee and Go Hyun entered and cleared it without his permission. What could be worse than rumors spreading that two of the dungeon clearers were rookies? Seo Jun quickly questioned the nonsense he heard. What the hell are you saying? He asked aloud. What do you mean if the dungeon appeared for the first time, anyone should have the right to attack it? Soo Hyun raised his hand to interrupt. Just give me the reward. Do you think you have the right to argue with me? As the leader of the Knights Guild, a person of high virtue and respect, those who oppose me don't end well, especially rookie hunters without a reputation. Hearing his threat, Seo Jun quickly got scared. Two girls passing by noticed Soo Hyun and blushed. Wow, he's so handsome. He turned to greet them with a friendly smile, but his expression quickly changed when he heard an abrupt comment from Seo Jun. He looked scared, then paused, looked at him calmly, and said as if that fearful face never happened. So you finally reveal your true nature. Seo Jun was annoyed. What do you mean, who dragged everyone's morale down? We were in a dangerous situation and you were looking for a way to retreat, coward. His insults made Soo Hyun clench his fists tightly. Soo Hyun warned, my patience for your insults has limits. Now I understand why Go Hyun said that back then. You're not qualified to be a hunter. Hearing that from him made Soo Hyun even angrier. When Hyun returned, she opened the door and greeted warmly as usual. Seo Jun Eun-hee, you've been waiting long, haven't you? Can I say something? She suddenly stopped when she didn't see Seo Jun, only Eun-hee and her child sitting together. Where's Seo Jun? She replied, oh, someone named Soo Hyun came here, and they went outside to talk. Hearing that, Hyun gasped loudly. What? Why is that bastard here? Should we go check out Goryo's snail shop instead? Meanwhile, Eun-hee worried if he was okay. When he started training, he never rested. She even saw him spending whole nights studying battlefields. She feared he was pushing himself too hard. Outside, where Seo Jun and Soo Hyun met, they both drew their weapons and prepared to fight right there in the yard. Then Seo-jun raised his spear, his aura thickening, and quickly struck 3 blows against Soo-hyun's sword. Soo-hyun couldn't counter as Seo-jun kept attacking. He only retreated defensively. He thought to himself, I can't believe I'm being pressured by a trainee. I was the one who attacked first. My hands tremble holding the sword, and I remember being overwhelmed fighting against Dia-chu. Soo-hyun gritted his teeth. Seo-jun stopped briefly to observe his expression, thinking, Sung Soo-hyun, you bastard. Aren't you an arrogant hunter? Then Seo-jun resumed attacking. Soo-hyun raised his sword to block and thought to himself that Soo-hyun was not only fast but had incredible reflexes. His swordsmanship was extraordinary and agile. Meanwhile, Soo-hyun struggled to defend. He thought hard, but as a rookie with probably fewer than 15 battles, he wasn't skilled enough. So why was he taking this fight so seriously? At that moment, the 2 blades clashed wildly. Then Seo-jun raised his spear, and his sword was immediately knocked away, forcing Soo-hyun to struggle to hold it back. He raised his spear and looked at him, thinking, I've got him for sure. Seo-jun thought, if he's coming to meet me and Hyun for the reward, then I'm sure he'll come for Eun-hee too. This slippery guy is a danger to Eun-hee. In the worst case, he'll try to recruit her into his guild. If that happens, everything will be just like before I reset. Seo-jun stood on tiptoe and struck back at him. I need to finish this quickly so he won't bother her anymore by ending him right now. But suddenly, Seo-jun felt dizzy and strange. What? He collapsed to the ground, sweat pouring down and his body trembling from exhaustion. Seo-jun thought to himself, have I pushed myself too hard? Why is this happening now? When he looked up, Soo-hyun saw only distorted, unfocused images. Soo-hyun looked down at Seo-jun, who was struggling and slumped over. He gritted his teeth, thinking he just charged wildly. I thought he was out of energy from using too much mana. I'm lucky. Suddenly, Soo-hyun was startled. Lucky. There's no way I'd admit being overwhelmed by a rookie hunter like him. Maybe I should just eliminate him now. Soo-hyun thought, and clenched his evil sword tightly, planning to cover it up by saying it was an accident during training. If I use money to hush this up, the case will definitely be closed. Then he raised his sword to finish Seo-jun, but at that moment his sword was knocked away and stuck into the ground behind the shadow of the intervening figure, none other than the Sword Saint. Soo-hyun was extremely surprised. The Sword Saint. Seo-jun was holding his own stiff wrist while the Sword Saint's voice echoed. Although this place hosts many training sessions, the sword you're holding has crossed the line, Soo-hyun. Now pale-faced, the Sword Saint's angry aura flared immediately. Get out of here now. Meanwhile, Hyun and Eun-hee also just arrived, startled and surprised. The two immediately ran toward the Sword Saint, and Eun-hee loudly called out to Seo-jun. Hyun asked, are you fighting Seo-jun? The Sword Saint simply said, there's no way I'd do that. Eun-hee immediately stepped forward and worried for him. Are you okay? You look pale. Seo-jun struggled to stand by leaning on his spear and replied, I'm fine, just a little tired. The Sword Saint then spoke, cornering his opponent, one of the tactics that can be used. But it seems you've also cornered yourself. A flash of the Sword Saint's figure appeared just before resetting. Being obsessed with training is good, but it quickly fades away. The current Holy Sword is different now. He continued, but remember, rest is part of it too. If it's for the battlefield, I will allow you to enter it, but at another time. Eun-hee stammered, thank you, Seo-jun. Then looking toward Koa, the little girl was happily being patted on the head by Hyun. He silently and worriedly thought, the Holy Sword is not a malicious person. Maybe I was worrying unnecessarily about what happened before resetting. The Sword Saint then added, then I will force you to take a little rest. Meanwhile, outside this gate, Soo-hyun was running away as fast as he could. 2 days later, after resting fully, the two immediately headed to the battlefield. Eun-hee asked, are you okay now? Seo-jun confidently replied, thanks to you, I'm as strong as ever. Hearing that, Eun-hee felt very relieved. He was still surprised himself, not expecting to sleep deeply for 2 whole days. Then Seo-jun looked seriously ahead. Now the most important thing is our real battle. Eun-hee asked, the battlefield doesn't seem as dangerous as the dungeon, right? Seo-jun then asked, have you read the notes I wrote? She answered, of course I'm familiar with the notes. Now we can get through this area without any trouble. In the dark bushes, suddenly pairs of glowing red eyes appeared, staring at them dangerously. They slowly approached them. Those were ape-like monsters. Seo-jun asked, where is Koa? She replied, Hyun is watching her at the entrance. Then Seo-jun, and she immediately closed ranks as the apes slowly surrounded them. Then I can fully focus on this battle. Let's finish it quickly. I'm starting to miss her. I'm jealous of Hyun. Even now, she can still play with Koa. Meanwhile, Hyun is playing with Koa, but the girl is using her magic to move the stuffed animals at will. The girl began to introduce, this is Mama Bear, and the one holding the stick is Papa Bear. This is Koa's bear. Hyun was itching to observe the stuffed bears silently watching Koa play with the magically controlled toys. Hyun was very curious. Are those dolls moving on their own? The girl smiled and continued, that rabbit over there is Sister Hyun, the pretty girl. After defeating the monsters, Seo Jun checked his stone. Judging by the light energy level, it seemed no one was alive or hiding here. Behind them, Eun-hee quickly ran up to Seo Jun. I've checked everything on my side. He smiled and said, let's hide the bodies and then go pick up Koa. They called out to Hyun. She startled. Then Seo Jun and Eun-hee slowly approached. He asked, we're back. Nothing happened here, right? Hyun stammered. Well, it's nothing serious, but I don't know if I should ask this. At that moment, both Seo Jun and Eun-hee froze, seeing Koa playing with the stuffed bears controlled by her magic. This was what puzzled Hyun most. Is Koa a magician? A while later, there at the same place, after much discussion with Eun-hee, we admitted that Koa could use magic. Not only could we not completely deny it, but even if we told Hyun, she wouldn't spread the truth with bad intentions. Hyun pondered after hearing the story. I see it's best to keep this secret, right? Seo Jun replied. Exactly, because she could be taken away somewhere, and the Magic Tower is obsessed with researching energy. The Magic Tower is an organization founded by magicians, a rare existence in this world. It's because they have a lot of potential to create countless different abilities. Even before I regressed, for certain reasons, they use their influence to try to capture Koa. The reason I try to stabilize Koa's energy is to avoid their pursuit. Hyun considered, so the reason both of you came to the battlefield this time is because of Koa. I'll go with you. Who knows if there's someone hiding in the battlefield, right? He was surprised. What is that? Okay. Yes, she stood up and smiled. If it's for Koa, then that's all there is to it. Nothing else. 3 is better than 2, isn't it? I also want to take the chance to show a new skill. Then they set off together. Hyun Eun-hee and Seo Jun carried Koa into the battlefield. The girl's eyes immediately glowed with magic. Koa still didn't understand what was happening. She saw streams of mana floating around her. She immediately said with curiosity, everything looks so sparkly. Seo Jun wondered, is she talking about the energy? We can't see the energy flowing through the air. And Koa smiled brightly. This place is amazing. I feel better already. But at that moment, Seo Jun looked back at the stone on his wrist, worried as the energy light seemed to be fading. He finally said to Eun-hee, it definitely helps somehow. She sighed in relief and said, let's stay here a bit before leaving. But right then, Seo Jun noticed something very unusual. He sensed a strange sound and immediately looked up. It was an alarm siren. He recognized the sound. Then Seo Jun immediately warned everyone run to the exit now. They headed toward the cave exit ahead. Eun-hee ran while asking, why is the alarm sounding while we're still at the battlefield? That's the sound when a new crack appears. But just as they reached the cave entrance, it had been sealed off by a landslide from an earthquake. Everyone panicked. Seo Jun couldn't believe his eyes. The exit of the cave now only had a pile of stacked rocks left. The system suddenly announced that the battlefield boss had appeared. Seo Jun was suspicious of that sound. Everyone immediately looked back upon noticing the huge shadow blocking them. The system then announced a sudden mission activation, the battlefield boss of the Rocky Mountain region. Please hunt the mountain golem. In front of them was a giant stone golem, its eyes glowing dangerously as it looked down at them. Seo Jun was still holding Koa and said that was the sound whenever the battlefield boss appeared. Then he decided to let Eun-hee carry the child. Meanwhile, the little girl looked at him worriedly. Dad. Then he instructed Eun-hee to try to stay as far away from the boss as possible because she was the fastest runner. He was sure she could keep Koa safe. He turned back to look at the boss. I brought everyone here after confirming this is not the time the battlefield boss appears. Besides, battlefield bosses don't usually come alone like this. It's probably attracted by the energy. Then Seo Jun shouted loudly as he realized the golem was starting to raise its hand to attack. It's coming. Spread out. As soon as it swung its fist down to the ground, and sand was immediately thrown into the air. When the golem slammed both hands down, the whole area was uprooted, along with the sandy ground being overturned. But the silhouettes of the 3 hunters had already spread out beyond the attack range. In the dust cloud, Seo Jun's figure appeared. Mountain golems have cores surrounded by stone. If we attack half-heartedly, not only can we not break it, but we'll also draw its attention. In other words, the only way to immediately defeat it is to find its core. After reasoning this, Seo Jun immediately rushed toward the golem. Alongside him, Hyun was also running over. She immediately jumped onto the golem's arm while it hadn't yet pulled its hand back. Seo-jun turned to observe Hyun and gave a signal. Looking at him, she made a gesture to slash across the neck. Seo-jun immediately nodded. Got it. He continued to observe the most common spots for the core, the top of the head or the neck. Because if we attack hastily, we will attract its attention. Seo-jun then stepped onto the golem's body. At the same time, Hyun continued moving on its body. They needed to get into position and simultaneously cut the core in half. Both of them then raised their weapons and simultaneously gathered a large amount of energy into their weapons. But suddenly, Seo-jun froze as he felt a violent shake. He immediately fell down. Just as he intended to strike, his spear accidentally stabbed into its body. Before Seo-jun had enough strength to break its stone layer, he whispered, "An earthquake." No, the golem is preparing to move. At this moment, the stone golem slowly lifted its foot and its whole body shook violently. Seo-jun was still on its head. He slowly looked forward. Below was the familiar silhouette of a woman. It was Eunhee. She was holding Koa and running quickly into the forest. Seo-jun thought it appeared because it was attracted by the energy. Could it be that it was only focused on those two? It was too late to wait for their signal. At this moment, the golem's foot was right behind Eunhee. It almost trampled her. Suddenly, a cloud of dust fell. To Hyun's surprise, she looked up at the golem's head. Seo-jun had stabbed his spear into its head to attract the golem's attention. Hyun loudly called to him, "Seo-jun, what are you doing? If you do that, won't it focus all its attention on you?" Seo-jun turned to her and replied firmly, "Before it focuses all its attention on Eunhee, we need to finish it. Cut it down now, Hyun." She was startled by that. Hyun's eyes slowly narrowed. Now I have to focus. I can't rush to swing like last time or I'll miss again. She closed her eyes, slowly activated her energy, and gripped the sword with full concentration. The sword was slowly drawn out, carrying deadly intent like a fierce electric current sparking. I have to remember the feeling from training and carefully strike accurately. Hyun opened her eyes wide. At this moment, energy had spread throughout her body. She shouted loudly and pulled out her sword with force. Just one horizontal slash across the golem's head was enough to fill the cracks in its stones with her sword strikes full of energy. Before it could do anything, Hyun looked at her work with joy. She brightened up and said loudly, "I did it, I defeated it." But suddenly, Seo-jun rushed over quickly and pulled her away, making Hyun very curious. What's going on? Above the golem's head, it was shattered. Only loose stones remained after being cut off. Meanwhile, Seo-jun held Hyun tightly and slid down the golem's body with her. While she shouted in confusion, "What's wrong with you? No need to rush this time, you cut them down." He hurriedly replied, "It's not dead yet. It's still alive and moving. The core of this golem isn't in the top of the head or neck. It's hidden elsewhere. Until we find and destroy the core, it will counterattack and regenerate after every strike we make." Hyun spoke up, "But where else could the core be?" Just then, Seo-jun stumbled due to an obstacle in the freefall path, interrupting her words. When they sat up, they found themselves sitting in the palm of the golem's hand. The two looked up. The golem had fully recovered and raised its other hand ready to smash them. Seo-jun wondered, is the golem going to crush us with its hand? There's no way to dodge in time. Hyun and Seo-jun both broke out in cold sweat. They just looked up as its huge hand slowly lowered. But suddenly something else slowly approached. Both of the golem's hands were grabbed by another arm made of ice, matching the golem's enormous size, leaving them stunned as they watched. What is that, an ice teddy bear? A giant ice teddy bear appeared before them. Going back a few minutes earlier, Eunhee finally escaped the golem's attention thanks to Seo-jun. She looked back worriedly. At this distance, it should be safe. Eunhee recalled that when the golem's head exploded, they escaped thanks to the loud sound it made, but those two had fallen into danger because of it. When Eunhee put Koa down, the little girl looked at her and said, "Mom, is that the bad monster? Dad and Sister Rabbit are fighting it, right?" Hearing this, Eunhee stood up and looked back, replying, "Yes, that's why I have to go help Koa." Folding her hands, the little girl excitedly said, "Then let me help too." She suddenly stepped forward. Eunhee was very worried. "What Koa?" She immediately fell silent as her breath suddenly turned to mist. Eunhee thought anxiously, "Can I see her breath?" Below Koa's path, a long, freezing trail appeared, along with it a chilling cold source. Eunhee looked at the girl, whose body was emitting a large amount of energy, so much that each of her steps froze the ground. Koa raised her hands, slowly creating a small figure, accurately modeling the golem. The little girl raised both hands, closed her eyes, and began casting a spell. Energy slowly formed in her hands. When Koa opened her eyes wide, her pupils flashed a strong, icy light, instantly triggering a seismic blast that sent dirt and sand flying behind her, hitting Eunhee as well. When the energy slowly died down, Eunhee was kneeling there, worriedly looking at Koa. What just happened? She saw her daughter lying still under the ground, the icy aura in front of her not yet melted. Eunhee shouted Koa's name and moved forward to lift her up. "Koto, wake up!" But the girl still seemed to be sound asleep. Eunhee finally realized the girl was sleeping. She slowly looked ahead, and a tall shadow appeared, a block of ice in the shape of a teddy bear, the toy Koa had been playing with earlier. Back to Seo-jun and Hyun, they were surprised by the obstruction. Where did that ice teddy bear come from? Is that magic? The golem slowly looked at the teddy bear's hand, which gripped its wrist, freezing it stiff, then looked at Hyun and said, "The golem's movements are restricted. Use this time to get out of here." She nodded, "Okay," and both jumped off the golem's hand. Seo-jun observed them and thought, looking back now, I'm sure that was a magical creature. The only person here who could create this magic is CEO Asao. At that moment, the bear looked at them, winked, and gave a safe thumbs up. But immediately after, the golem threw a punch at it without hesitation, pushing the bear strongly backward. Seo-jun and Hyun both worriedly thought, no way, it's just big with no strength or knowledge of fighting. The ice bear then collapsed against the stone wall, seemingly unconscious after losing part of its mask. While it was still unconscious and lying there, the golem raised its fist, preparing to punch again. Seo-jun thought to himself, at this rate it'll be finished in no time. Right then, its fist was suddenly blocked by an ice stick. The two watched in surprise. The ice bear had blocked the attack with the ice stick. It had been ready. He wondered if it created a weapon to block the attack. Then the bear counterattacked, striking the golem with the stick, pushing its arm back. Not stopping there, the bear prepared and stabbed the stick repeatedly into the golem's body, gradually dismantling parts of it. Seo-jun was surprised, thinking the situation had turned around just because of a weapon. Hyun anxiously called Seo-jun, and he asked, "Yes, what's up?" She slowly said, "That ice bear looks so much like you. Koa named it my dad, and now it's fighting the monster. It can see the golem's core location, which is in the center of its chest." The bear immediately lit up, raised the stick, aimed at the golem's chest, and stabbed directly at the target spot. The golem's core was easily pierced through its tough body by the sharp end of the stick. Once the core left the monster's body, it immediately cracked, and the energy inside burst out. At a certain moment, the pressure built up, and it exploded. Before Hyun and Seo-jun's eyes, they stared blankly, as sparkling core fragments scattered everywhere. System notification. You have successfully defeated the mountain golem, the boss monster of the Rocky Mountain area. Eunhee, watching from the other side, also looked stunned while holding Koa in her arms. The sleeping girl seemed peaceful. The system again announced, you have completed the mission. Suddenly night fell, and they safely returned to their lodging after defeating the monster. Seo-jun was on the phone with Hyun, who said, I will make sure nothing related to Koa appears in the incident in the Rocky Mountain area. He asked, are you sure you can do that? Yes, she replied. Maybe I don't look like it, but I'm still the granddaughter of the Sword Saint. Okay, don't worry anymore. Seo-jun smiled and answered, all right then, I'll leave it to you. Eunhee applied bandages to the wounds on his face as he hung up. Eunhee turned to ask him, are you hurt anywhere? Seo-jun smiled confidently. Yeah, but just a little swelling, so don't worry too much. Thanks for caring about me. Then he looked behind the sofa where Koa told Eunhee, she's asleep, she must be very tired. But inside the bedroom, Koa was peacefully sleeping with her stuffed bear. Koa must have been exhausted after creating the ice bear. So now she's still sound asleep, even though we're home. Thinking about what she created with magic, not just summoning a divine beast at the cost of a magician's energy, but Koa actually created a completely new entity by summoning and crafting magic, clearly two completely different levels. My daughter might be the strongest person in the world. Meanwhile, on the other end, Hyun was walking down the stairs while talking on the phone, suddenly stopping and lowering her phone in surprise when she saw a car with 2 guards outside. Hyun wondered, foreigners. Doesn't look like it. Do you know that man? Why did they come looking for Goryo's house? At that moment, the man inside the car opened the door and said, please excuse me. You must have been startled by my security guards. He stepped out of the car, holding a cane, looking very upper class. I have something to ask you. Do you have a moment? The man was dressed elegantly, wearing a top hat and a fancy monocle. Back at Seo-jun's family lodging, while Koa was playing with her stuffed animals, Seo-jun called her. He asked if she remembered the giant ice bear she created. Hearing the question, the little girl seemed not to remember anything. Seo-jun thought to himself, the girl couldn't have created it while she was conscious, right? He silently crossed his arms and continued thinking. How could that magic have appeared? He was a bit uncertain about saying that thing was created by magic because it was very stable by nature. Miss A suddenly spoke up. Actually, I just wanted to scold that ugly monster. The girl resolutely turned to look at Seo-jun, hearing that he was extremely surprised. Immediately, Seo-jun was softened by his daughter's words. Maybe Miss A, but unexpectedly there was a knock at the door. At this hour, then Seo-jun looked over and replied, someone's visiting. Unhee, let me go open the door. But at that moment, his phone in his pocket rang. Today, Seo-jun picked it up and answered, Hyun, is that you on the line? Hurriedly asking Seo-jun, where are you? He walked toward the door and replied, I'm at home. Sorry, it seems I have a guest. I'll call back later. But Hyun insisted on keeping him on the line. Wait, Seo-jun, a mage from the tower, is coming to see you. Hearing that, Seo-jun immediately froze. Hyun continued, it seems that while we were hunting the mountain golem, a large amount of energy damaged the detection radar. While she was still speaking, the visitor outside kept ringing the doorbell. Because of that, they were tracking the logs of those who had visited the battlefield and investigating each one. At that moment, the one ringing his lodging door was the foreigner from before. His expression was very sinister. After hearing her words, Seo-jun's face darkened, sweat pouring nonstop. He couldn't say anything, which made Hyun even more worried. She kept calling out, Hello, Seo-jun, are you there? Seo-jun's pupils contracted in panic. His heart raced. Memories from before his regression suddenly flooded back. Back then, a group came to his house and took Seo away. They overpowered him and took the girl away from the lodging where they lived. That fear immediately replayed inside his serum. Suddenly, the system displayed a unique mission update. Lycia's first misfortune begins. Then Seo-jun froze in shock as the mission slowly appeared. It slowly shifted to a more detailed version, unique mission to change the future. Prevent 5 misfortunes for Miss A. The first misfortune, protect Miss A's identity from William Taylor, is incomplete. But Seo-jun gritted his teeth and kept sweating heavily. William Taylor, what's going on? Suddenly a voice called out from outside the door. Seo-jun, making him stop dead in his tracks and look up. It was Unhee. She stepped forward worriedly and asked, is something wrong? At that moment, he looked down and noticed Unhee was holding their daughter's hand, but her arm was trembling unevenly. Seo-jun then said to Hyun, let me see what I can do. We'll deal with this afterward. Then he hung up and knelt down to look at Miss A. While speaking to Unhee, the mage from the magic tower is looking for us because of what happened on the battlefield. I think the people outside are them. Seo-jun placed his hand on the girl's shoulder, thinking quietly that the more he hesitated, the more suspicious they would be of Miss A. Feeling confused, he continued thinking, the only thing I can do now is trust my instincts and try to handle this as smoothly as possible. Then he said aloud, Miss A, here's something. Dad needs you to help with this. The atmosphere around them suddenly grew tense. After a moment, he finally allowed the man outside to come in. He said, friendly, thank you both for cooperating with the investigation. Seo-jun and Miss Unhee. Holding a file in his hand, he introduced himself. I am a mage from the tower, William Taylor. This might seem sudden and tense, but since this is an investigation requested by the Hunters Association itself, we hope you will cooperate fully. Seo-jun and Unhee sat opposite William. While he held his daughter tightly and cautiously, Seo-jun calmly replied, yes. In his heart, he continued thinking, as long as it's William Taylor. William Taylor was the manager of the British branch of the tower before I regressed. Although I don't know what position he currently holds. Surely he is an extremely talented person. His bodyguard standing behind spoke up. There is no equipment damaged here, sir. Seo-jun turned around and continued thinking. Of course he had to check for energy traces in the house. Luckily, he did not detect Koa's energy. This was a good sign. The girl was a little worried as she clung to her father's shirt. He recalled the moment earlier when he grabbed Koa's shoulder and called out Koa. The girl replied, yes, Dad. He explained hurriedly. Koa, the bad guys have been tracking your power here. Hearing this, Koa was very worried. Bad guys. Seo-jun then asked Koa, you clearly know the energy you're holding, right? I want you to hide that energy deep inside. Can you try? Koa didn't hesitate and nodded determinedly. Unhee then asked, what's wrong with Koa? He answered, if my intuition is correct, the reason Koa's magic circle is chaotic isn't because she can't control it, but simply because no one has taught her how to control it. At that moment, Koa raised her hand to her chest. She began casting magic so she hadn't tried it before. She closed her eyes and silently chanted the spell. Back to the present, after reviewing documents on SEO June's family information, William said, "Not only did Mr. Lee and Ms. Yu pass the license exam with excellent results, but Mr. Lee also encountered an unexpected crack." Yes, that's right. So, recently did Mr. Lee and Ms. Yu visit the battlefield at Goryo Sword Shell? Hearing this question, Eunhee frowned and replied, "Yes, we did go there." Then SEO June held her hand below to reassure her. William continued asking, "Did the two of you defeat the battlefield boss?" This time SEO June answered, "No, we defeated it together with Hyun Eunhee." Hearing this honest answer from him, she looked over anxiously. Then he quickly took out a photo. So let's get straight to the point. We found evidence of significant energy use, along with some suspicious items on the battlefield. Do you know anything about this? SEO June observed and recognized remnants of the Ice Bear plush. He immediately reasoned that after the Ice Bear plush defeated the mountain golem, it shattered into pieces and slowly melted. Thinking that they even noticed this, SEO June considered carefully, then replied aloud, "Although I really want to help, I don't recognize anything from this photo." Hearing this, William quickly grew suspicious inside. He immediately considered that both possessed strong energy sources, but not enough to use magic. We might have mistaken the person. William then smiled friendly and said, "All right, thank you both for cooperating with the investigation." After William left, Koa took the phone and facecam called Hyun. She seemed relieved to see the girl safe and sound. Koa the girl laughed and replied the little bunny on the other side said she was scared to death. The girl laughed while Eunhee sat leaning against SEO June's back, breathing a sigh of relief. She answered, "Same here. I thought we were caught and was very scared." She continued, "Koa was scared earlier too. Luckily now she's okay." Meanwhile, Koa smiled innocently at the screen. Eunhee said, "Well, if nothing's wrong, there's no reason to stay on guard at the tower anymore, right?" CEO June said, "We'll think about it tomorrow after a good sleep." But suddenly, he remembered something. Then SEO June looked down at the system board. The task was still listed as before. He sweat nervously, thinking the mission still shows as incomplete. That means Koa's first misfortune hasn't been resolved yet. We escaped a threat right now. But if William Taylor notices Koa's energy, can I stop him? I'm only a bit stronger than an ordinary person. I can hardly keep up with him and would just lose miserably. No, even if Cho isn't William Taylor, I would still lose. The truth is, Koa's enemy isn't just the Magic Tower, but very likely the whole world. Just because I'm better than those around me, I tend to ignore that fact. I need to become stronger by using every tool at my disposal. I've been too cautious in using the knowledge I have about the future, but now is not the time to be careful anymore. At night, when Eunhee and Koa were asleep, SEO June went out to the living room and looked at the messy pile of documents on the table. He placed his hand on the table and carefully observed. To do that first, I needed to find someone. Among those documents was a file on a woman who seemed quite professional. A week later, on a Cars television broadcast, a female reporter was announcing, "Taking this opportunity, I will prove the quality of the story." Inside the car were a male driver and a female passenger. She spoke up for an interview. "Has that been aired already?" The driver replied, "Are you sure you'll be okay going alone?" That woman was the same person from the file on SEO June's table, the one he needed to find. She calmly responded, "I'll be fine. It's not like I've never been in a dungeon before. Besides, I'm just here today for publicity." After arriving at the gate with a stop sign posted, the car quickly came to a halt. The woman also opened the door and stepped out. As soon as she moved outside, everyone in the city stared intently at her. They murmured and gossiped, "That's Hiram, the daughter of that big company. Is that really her? Look at her gear crazy." Hiram flicked her hair confidently. Then she pulled out a six-shooter and loaded the bullets. Hiram smiled and looked down below. She thought quietly for a moment, then said to herself, "Shall I go down now?" In front of her was a ruined dungeon beneath the GA battlefield. Underground Wanga Moon and Aram slowly entered with a gloomy atmosphere. She was on high alert, observing her surroundings, no monsters in sight. Had someone already dealt with them? I'm fully equipped with weapons and defense gear, and I'm in perfect condition, so why am I trembling like this? Hiram could feel herself sweating nervously as if she were scared. She carefully surveyed the area, thinking to herself that clearly no one else was here. Suddenly, Aram sensed someone standing behind her. She immediately turned around to look behind her. In her mind, she kept thinking that the thing scaring her was probably just another hunter who had entered earlier. The person behind Aram was holding a sharp knife, which she didn't notice. And Aram simply turned around to ask if there were any monsters nearby. She spoke, "Hey, excuse me." Suddenly, the person lunged forward and stabbed Aram in the side before she could react. Harem then trembled as she raised her gun to defend herself. She kept her distance from them, bending over to clutch her bleeding, injured side. Gritting her teeth, she cursed the madman. There were two of them in front of her. Both harems shouted loudly, "Since you have nothing left to do, you turn to stabbing people now." But they didn't answer. Her wound kept bleeding more and more. Harem held it trembling, thinking no matter who the mastermind is, I'll kill them once I get out of here. But I'm not sure if I can. She struggled to hold on. Both men in front of her were armed with knives. They could attack her at any moment. Escape in this condition. But suddenly, Seo Jun appeared from nowhere and charged like a god, kneeing one of them in the side so hard his spine broke like a brittle twig, and even he didn't know how. The other man looked anxiously at his accomplice. Both harems looked at Seo Jun with calm faces as if this was obvious. The other man was terrified, unable to close his mouth in shock. He looked down at the man he just attacked, worried as he saw him collapse. Already knocked out. The other man shouted, "Where did you come from? Are you a bodyguard or what?" He immediately pointed his knife and lunged at Seo Jun to attack. "Don't interfere and just get lost." With a simple lean, Seo Jun made him slip and fall. Then he struck the back of his neck with his hand. Look at how quickly and cleanly Seo Jun handled it. Iram sat there dazed as if a breeze had just passed by her. She looked up at his back and curiously asked who he was. After Seo Jun turned it around, he firmly replied, "Me, I'm just a passing hunter at High Tech, the most famous weapons manufacturing company in South Korea right now. It's a place specialized in producing all the items a hunter needs, like weapons, protective gear, and other supplies. The person I saved is the daughter of the High Tech Corporation, Ha Iram." She was then taken to the hospital. Following Seo Jun, Iram held a tablet and browsed it thoughtfully. She observed Seo Jun's information on the screen and said, "You said you have a lovely daughter, so I was a bit suspicious. You're not only my Prince Charming, but also someone who's married with kids. Could it be that the information about you having a daughter with Ayu Unhu, your college friend, is wrong?" Seo Jun corrected her slightly. "I do have a child, but I'm not married yet. However, I do have someone I like." But right after he was startled, "Wait, are you investigating my background?" Iram replied clearly and set boundaries, pointing to a chair by her bed and continuing, "Information about you will be delivered even if I do nothing." Seo Jun slowly sat down while Iram continued, "Anyway, since you saved my life, I think I should repay you. So I called you here. No, I will repay you handsomely. Give me your account number." As she slowly took off her glasses, Seo Jun immediately raised his hand, saying no way. She said not to feel burdened. She could even give more if he wanted. Seo Jun forced a smile. "I say that because honestly, I'm fine." In his mind, he thought, honestly, that's an attractive offer. A sum that would make his mouth water. Deposit it into his account so he could invest it in many places. Seo Jun thought silently, "I'm not helping because I want money." He continued his thoughts. "But if I accept the money, my relationship with Ha Iram will end here." Hearing that, Iram laughed excitedly. "You're more interesting than I thought, you know. If I can't repay you, then personally I can gift you something, right?" Seo Jun was surprised. "Gift?" She winked. "Yeah, 2 items," and handed him her tablet. A while later, outside the door, 2 guards were still standing watch, while Seo Jun inside watched the tablet screen. He asked, "Is her gift an authorized mission?" And Iram replied he could decide whether to accept it. After hearing the description, she showed a file with photos and said, "Dungeon Tiger's Lair. This is an unconquered dungeon. A new monster species was discovered here, so we plan to select people to go. But a problem occurred." She pointed to a bloody photo. Iram explained this was the fate of the previous group of 5 hunters and loot collectors, all dead. The image was extracted from a video recorded by a hunter. On the tablet screen, a video quickly played showing a male hunter walking in the dark with a flashlight and a sword in hand. He kept calling out, "Where are you? Answer me." Suddenly, a voice came from behind the door in front of him. "We're in here, help." The hunter quickly focused on listening to 2 voices. He worriedly thought of the 2 people and replied, "Wait there, I'm coming." The hunter shouted and rushed to the door, but his expression contradicted his loud voice, a look of fear and uncertainty. And right after that was the hunter's death. Seo Jun picked up the photo and examined it while Iram continued, "That's the last scene in the video." He carefully observed the details in the photo and wondered about the white fur on the jacket. Meanwhile, Iram kept talking. "I plan to go alone, but with the situation like this..." "Yes," Seo Jun asked. "So I just need to collect materials from that monster, right? When can I go in?" Hearing that, Iram asked curiously, "Wait, are you planning to go alone? Are you crazy? That place has wiped out countless people." He firmly replied, even so, I'll still go alone. Then he put the photo down on the table. SEO June asked again, didn't you bring this up to test me? Hearing that, she was very surprised. He smiled and said, let's see how strong I am. If this is a test, I should give it my all. After the discussion, SEO June finally stepped out to leave. Iram watched his figure leave through the window. Iram's assistant entered the room, listened to the whole story, and asked if it was okay to let him go alone. She replied reassuringly, yeah, if he wants to. According to what he said, I'm testing him, and he doesn't seem to be showing off. Iram smiled as she spoke. Later, when it got dark, SEO June returned home to his family. Dad's home. Hearing SEO June's voice, Koa quickly ran out with open arms to welcome her dad back. He hugged the little girl joyfully, silently, thinking about returning to his warm home. All the stress from outside melted away. The most adorable daughter in the world. The beautiful wife. No, the beautiful ex-girlfriend. I still find it a bit odd to call Unhee that, so let's just leave it for now. At that moment, Koa suddenly noticed something and smiled, saying, Dad smells so good. Hearing the compliment, he was startled and surprised. He turned to Unhee and asked, Unhee, do you smell something? She slowly stepped forward. Let me check. Then she moved close and sniffed SEO June's body scent. He suddenly blushed, feeling shy that Unhee was so close to him like that. He thought to himself, is this the first time she's been this close? After the regression, I always admired her. She's really beautiful. But then the answer made SEO June freeze women's perfume. He had many questions in his mind, and Unhee continued, SEO June, you don't wear perfume. Then he recalled after rescuing Hyeram, she was annoyed and said, if he's not one of them, then save me. SEO June agreed, yeah, why not? Then he had to carry Hyeram on his back and take her to the hospital. While Hyeram insisted, pointing a gun at his head, I'll kill you if you do anything strange. SEO June immediately replied, no, I don't want to die and leave my lovely daughter behind. Thinking of those actions, SEO June understood why his body smelled of perfume. Could it be that at that time Chao Koa, looking completely innocent, said something painfully honest? Dad, are you cheating? Hearing that phrase from the little girl, SEO June was completely stunned. Where did you learn that phrase? After the daughter Yoon-hee spoke up, Lee SEO June. He was startled, looking over. Looking at SEO June, sweating and pale, he didn't need to ask and shouted loudly, I'm innocent. Yoon-hee then asked, really? Then June used his pure, sparkling eyes to persuade her, look into my eyes. Do they look like someone lying? He thought to himself he was betting everything on this. Unhee stared at him, her lifeless eyes like she was checking if he was lying. SEO June kept sweating and screaming inside, not cheating, I'm being framed. Then Unhee just smiled kindly and concluded, looks like you're telling the truth. Hearing that, SEO June felt very relieved. She then stood up and left. What could I possibly say? Watching her back, SEO June fearfully thought, looks like she has a lot to say. Koa looked back at her dad happily and said, Dad, you're alive. Looking at his daughter, he frowned and scolded, social media and TV stations are the root of all evil.